Chapter 1174. Ji Tianqing and Xiao Ling'er flew through the Xiao clan, crossing several mountain ranges and plains. Every time they passed by a place, Xiao Ling'er would tell Ji Tianqing about the interesting things that happened in those places when she was young. 2 hours later, the two of them were a few hundred miles away from the breezing garden and stopped at a dark green mountain. The two of them landed in the valley and looked up at the tall mountain. They saw a silver waterfall pouring down from the peak of the mountain. The 300-meter-wide torrent poured down with a rumbling sound, splashing up a mist that filled the sky and creating a loud rumbling sound in the valley. The sunlight shone on the jade-white waterfall, reflecting a dazzling radiance. It looked exceptionally dreamy and blurred. Xiao Ling'er pointed at the majestic waterfall and the deep pool below it. She smiled and said, "Big brother Tianqing, this is the Flying Star Waterfall. We often played here when we were young. Back then, everyone liked to come here to play in the water and dive into the deep pool to catch fish. Later on, when we grew up, we practiced our swordsmanship and inner strength under the waterfall. Those 2 years were too tough. Now that I think about it, it still feels like yesterday." Xiao Ling'er's face revealed a look of reminiscence. Her smile was very sincere and clean. Ji Tianqing nodded and said emotionally, "Every martial arts genius has a story of extraordinary hardships and hardships behind them. The sharpness of a treasured sword is sharpened, and the fragrance of plum blossoms comes from the bitter cold. Only martial artists who never admit defeat and have gone through countless trials and tribulations can become experts." Xiao Ling'er nodded in agreement. She looked up at his face and asked with bright eyes, "Big brother Tianqing, can you tell me about your past?" Ji Tianqing's lips curled into a smile. "My story? There are too many. Which one do you want to hear?" Xiao Ling'er thought for a while and said with a smile, "When I was 15 or 16. Ji Tianqing's body trembled, and a strange look flashed in his eyes. He was about to reject her when the sound of something breaking through the air came from the entrance of the valley. 6 young martial artists in luxurious clothes flew across the sky at lightning speed and landed in the valley. Swish! 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 The 6 of them landed beside Ji Tianqing and Xiao Ling'er, surrounding the two of them. Xiao Ling'er's expression instantly went grim when she saw these 6 young disciples, and her beautiful face was covered in frost. The 6 of them were the best in the 2nd branch and the 5th branch of Xiao clan. They were all in their early 20s and had reached the 3rd level of Sky Origin stage. The 2 people in the lead were Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku. Though their cheeks were no longer swollen and funny as they had been the day before. However, a few bloodstains could still be seen on their faces. The 2 of them stared coldly at Ji Tianqing, sneering. "Brat, just now, this young master's informant came to report that you and Xiao Ling'er walked out of Tingfeng Garden together. This young master didn't quite believe it. I didn't expect you to be so thick-skinned and shameless. You've progressed so quickly. Little brat, you had Xiao Han's protection yesterday. Now that you've fallen into our hands, let's see if you still dare to be arrogant. Aren't you arrogant? Aren't you famous? Aren't you envied and challenged wherever you go? Come on, if you're a man, then repeat what you said yesterday." The 2 of them had a manic aura, and their eyes were surging with anger and killing intent. As soon as the 2 of them finished speaking, the other 4 young men from Xiao clan burst into laughter. The 4 of them held on to their swords and stared maliciously at Ji Tianqing with mocking sneers on their faces. Seeing this, Xiao Ling'er was instantly enraged. She berated with a frosty face, "Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku. Wasn't yesterday's lesson enough? The 2 of you clearly know brother Tianqing's identity, yet you still dare to seek revenge so insolently. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the Hall of Law?" Xiao Chong glared at her fiercely and sneered, "Humph. What bullshit identity? Isn't he just relying on Xiao Han's protection? Without Xiao Han's presence, this brat is just a piece of trash. Other than bragging and using flowery words to deceive a silly girl like you, what else does he have? Xiao Ku also sneered and said, if it weren't for this brat, why would we be in such a sorry state? The humiliation we suffered last night, will pay him back in double today. Xiao Ling was instantly enraged. She pointed at the two of them and berated, Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, don't forget that the clan rules forbid private fights. Don't tell me you want to be expelled from the clan. Huh, what do you mean by private fight? Xiao Chong sneered and said fearlessly, we were just curious about the Xiao clan's branch disciple and wanted to have a friendly spar with him. Don't worry, we won't kill him. As long as he kneels down and kowtows to me, I'll spare his life. Xiao Ku also grinned and said with a hideous smile, Tianqing Xiao, as long as you kowtow to the 6 of us and get out of the Xiao clan, we'll spare you. The two's ugly faces made Xiao Ling tremble in anger. She scolded in a cold tone, you bunch of beasts that are worse than pigs and dogs. The Hall of Law will definitely punish you severely. Xiao Chong sneered in disdain, this place is a few hundred miles away from the Hall of Law. Other than us, who would know what happened? Even if you went to complain to the Hall of Law, would he believe the 2 of you or the 6 of us? Do you think that the Hall of Law will be like you, helping an outsider and helping a lowly branch disciple? The word lowly deeply provoked Xiao Ling causing her to be enraged. She subconsciously wanted to draw her sword. Xiao Chong. How dare you insult Big Brother Tianqing? I'll fight it out with you. In her heart, Ji Tianqing was a graceful and elegant young master in a chaotic world. He was also a peerless genius, a peerless prodigy that couldn't be blasphemed. However, just as she was about to pull out her sword, a broad and powerful palm gently pressed down on her weak shoulder. That palm was very warm, but it was as heavy as a mountain, causing her to be unable to move. She turned her head to look to the side and saw Ji Tianqing looking at her with a smile on his face. He said in a gentle tone, it's not worth it to get angry with a bunch of beasts. They aren't worthy. Seeing Ji Tianqing smile and hearing his voice, Xiao Ling didn't know why, but the rage in her heart actually instantly dissipated, and her entire heart calmed down. She was filled with confidence towards Ji Tianqing, and her heart was filled with a sense of security. She believed that as long as he was by her side, even if the sky collapsed, he would support it with one arm. This was the magic on his body, the charm that he possessed. However, a burst of ear-piercing mocking laughter interrupted her thoughts and also destroyed the beautiful atmosphere. Ha ha ha. Brothers, quickly look. This fellow is still pretending when he's about to die. Tisk tsk, hearing about him really can't compare to meeting him in person. This kid is simply arrogant to the point of being out of control. Humph. I think that this fellow is a madman. Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and the others all had faces full of contempt and ridicule as they discussed. Chapter 1175. Ji Tianqing's words made everyone quiet down instantly. Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and the rest were stunned as they looked at him strangely. After a while, everyone came back to their senses and burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. I'm dying of laughter. This guy is really crazy. I think he even forgot his own surname, right? I've learned something new. I've never seen such a pretentious person in my life. Look at how serious his expression is when he's bragging. Even he believes it himself. I'm completely convinced. This guy is already possessed. The crowd roared with laughter as they mercilessly mocked him. Ji Tianqing's expression was still indifferent as he said in a cold tone, I originally didn't want to bother with you bunch of clowns, but you pestered me again and again. Then I can only give you a lesson that you'll never forget. Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and the rest burst into laughter again. The expressions on their faces became more and more ferocious, and the murderous aura on their bodies became heavier. But at this moment, Ji Tianqing's expression suddenly changed. He stood on the spot without moving. His hands were behind his back, and he had the posture of a powerhouse. But a dazzling white light gushed out of his body and instantly divided into 6 parts, enveloping Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and the rest. Swoosh! Within the white light, there was a vast and majestic soul energy. It immediately invaded the bodies of the 6 people and fiercely suppressed their souls. Suddenly, the laughter of the 6 people stopped abruptly. The expressions on their faces immediately stiffened, and their bodies also seemed to have been petrified. They had no idea what had happened. They only felt as if their souls were struck by lightning. Their minds went blank on the spot, and they lost the ability to think. In the next moment, unparalleled pain came from the depths of their souls, causing their bodies to tremble like a sieve. Their legs went soft, and they knelt on the ground. Ah! The 6 people were suffering the most terrifying pain in their lives. They were terrified to the extreme, and their faces were distorted as they screamed miserably. Cold sweat broke out all over their bodies. As they screamed miserably, they frantically kowtowed to Ji Tianqing and Xiao Ling. Their heads fiercely hit the ground, making banging sounds. In just a few breaths of time, the ground was dented by their heads, and a few bluestones were smashed into powder. Everyone kowtowed until their heads were full of blood. Their bodies were soaked in cold sweat, and hot yellow water was also coming out of their pants. They looked extremely miserable. Xiao Ling was dumbstruck at that moment. Her clear eyes opened wide, and her heart was filled with shock. She simply couldn't believe that these 6 fellows who were incomparably arrogant just a moment ago were now crazily kowtowing and begging for mercy as if they had seen the most terrifying demon god in the world. This was just too dreamy. Ji Tianqing looked at the crowd expressionlessly. His eyes were as calm as water, without the slightest ripple. A bunch of trash. I haven't even made a move yet, and you're already so scared. How pitiful. His voice was indifferent as he spoke. After which, he turned around and left with Xiao Ling. Even when he and Xiao Ling flew out of the valley and disappeared into the horizon, Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and the others were still kneeling on the ground, frantically kowtowing in pain and fear. After a long while, everyone finally regained their senses and hurriedly got up from the ground. They were all still in shock as they sized each other up. They saw that everyone's faces were covered in blood, and their hair was disheveled. Moreover, their clothes were soaked, and they were emitting the stench of feces and urine. They were simply in an extremely sorry state. Everyone recalled Ji Tianqing's words and instantly felt extremely humiliated. They even had the thought of committing suicide. Ah! My illustrious reputation is all ruined. Xiao Tianqing. I'll never let you go, you bastard. Bastard. I don't know what sorcery he used to bewitch our minds and make us kowtow to him. He deserves to die. Everyone roared with grief and indignation as they cursed crazily. After a long time, Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku gradually calmed down. Their eyes flickered with resentment. Xiao Ku lifted his sleeve to wipe the blood off his face. His face was livid with anger as he asked in a deep voice, Xiao Chong, Xiao Tianqing humiliated us like this. I swear I won't stop until I destroy his reputation. Xiao Chong was so angry that his face turned purple. He asked in a cold tone, then, what method do you have to wash away today's humiliation? Xiao Ku's eyes were filled with rage as he said with resentment, it's still the same method as back then. I want him to suffer all kinds of humiliation during the Holy Fire Festival and be expelled from the Xiao clan like a stray dog. Hearing this, Xiao Chong immediately grinned coldly. That's right. Xiao Chen's elder brother was ruined by us just like that. If not for the third elder trying his best to protect and plead for mercy, he would have been expelled from the Xiao clan long ago. Even so, he is now a lowly odd-job worker, only able to work in the mines. Xiao Tianqing, that bastard, is just a branch family disciple. Even with Xiao Han's protection, he will not be able to escape the fate of being expelled from the clan. Xiao Ku nodded and exchanged glances with Xiao Chong. Both of them revealed sinister and resentful smiles. Ji Tianqing and Xiao Ling'er flew out of the valley and continued to fly towards the depths of the Xiao clan. After the two of them flew out for 250 kilometers, Xiao Ling'er stopped and stood in the sky above a dense forest. Elder brother Tianqing, this is as far as we can go. We can't go any further. Ji Tianqing looked ahead and saw a towering mountain that was over 10,000 meters tall at the end of the horizon 50 kilometers away. That towering mountain was shrouded in white clouds and thick fog. It looked very mysterious and emitted a majestic aura that could suppress the world. It was like a pillar that supported the sky in this alternate dimension. He asked doubtfully, "What's wrong? Why can't we go any further?" Xiao Ling'er hesitated for a while before explaining softly, "Elder brother Tianqing, that is our Xiao clan's forbidden ground, the Pillar of Heaven's mountain. It is said that the Xiao clan's old ancestor resides there." "Oh. The Xiao clan's old ancestor's residence." Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows as a playful look flashed in his eyes. Xiao Ling'er nodded and pulled his arm. Her eyes were clear as she said, "Elder brother Tianqing, let's go back. Ling'er knows how to brew tea. I will brew this year's spirit heart tea for you." Ji Tianqing smiled and waved his hand. "There's no need to go through so much trouble. The Holy Fire Festival is coming soon. You have to prepare well. Don't you want to leave the Xiao clan? Then you can't disappoint everyone." Xiao Ling'er's eyes lit up when she heard that. She raised her head and asked, "Elder brother Tianqing, will you leave the Xiao clan after the Holy Fire Festival?" "Yes." Ji Tianqing nodded slightly. "If I get the top 2 in the assessment and leave the Xiao clan, will I be able to see you often in the future?" Ji Tianqing only smiled and didn't answer. Xiao Ling'er was certain of the answer in her heart. She clenched her small fist and said firmly, "Elder brother Tianqing, don't worry. I will definitely get the top 2 in the assessment. I won't let you down." Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "Then you should go back and prepare. I will walk around by myself." Xiao Ling'er didn't doubt him at all. She quickly nodded and agreed. After bidding farewell, she flew back. Chapter 1176. Ji Tianqing came to the Xiao clan to meet the Xiao clan's patriarch. He didn't care about the Xiao clan's Holy Fire Festival or the grudges between the young disciples. In fact, he was just a passerby to the Xiao clan. He came to the Xiao clan to verify one thing. Once he got the answer, he could leave without any worries. Therefore, when he found out that the Pillar of Heaven's mountain was the residence of the Xiao clan's patriarch, he rushed over without hesitation. Swoosh! He passed through the clouds and landed on the peak of the Pillar of Heaven's mountain that was 10,000 meters tall. On the peak of the Pillar of Heaven's mountain, there was a piece of flat land with a radius of 10 miles. This piece of land was filled with dark red spiritual feather maple leaves. The red leaves were like the feathers of a divine bird and were as red as fire. Surrounded by thousands of spiritual feather maple leaves, there was a wooden house made of black soul wood. The wooden house had 2 floors and about 6 to 7 rooms. An invisible soul-grade array protected the entire wooden house. Even after thousands of years, it wouldn't decay. Every room in the wooden house had its own defensive array that contained the power of space. They all had their own mysteries. In the small courtyard outside the wooden house, there was a 300-meter-tall green maple tree. The tree trunk was 30 meters thick and the wide tree crown covered an area with a radius of 10,000 feet. Pieces of dark green maple leaves fell from the tree crown, sprinkling in the quiet little courtyard, making rustling sounds. Under the 1,000-year-old tree, there was a green stone table and 2 stone stools. On the table, there was a chessboard with hundreds of black and white chess pieces. Beside the table, there was a green jade pot filled with bejeweled nectar that emitted an intoxicating fragrance. A skinny old man in a black robe with white hair that reached his waist was sitting on the stone stools like a withered tree. He didn't move at all. His aura was extremely restrained, like an ordinary person. There wasn't even any aura of life on his body. He was like a piece of withered wood. Regardless of whether one looked at him with the naked eye or spiritual consciousness, one would mistakenly think that he was an old man who had passed away. However, Ji Tianqing's spiritual energy could detect that the black-robed old man's spiritual energy was as vast as the sea. He could vaguely sense that the white-haired old man's spirit power seemed to have reached the peak of the soul refinement realm and was only a step away from entering the essence soul supremacy realm. The black-robed old man sat under the tree. His white hair and black robes were covered with dozens of green maple leaves. No one knew how long he had been sitting under the tree, but he hadn't moved at all. He stared at the chessboard on the table without any ripples in his eyes. He held a black chess piece in his right hand. It hovered in the air and did not fall down. Ji Tianqing lightly stepped into the small courtyard and walked towards the Qing maple tree. The black-robed old man's back was facing him. He didn't seem to have noticed his arrival and remained motionless. Moments later, Ji Tianqing walked under the green maple tree and stood beside the black-robed old man. He cupped his hands in greeting and said, "Junior Ji Tianqing pays his respects to the Shao clan's patriarch." Without a doubt, this black-robed old man was the Shao clan's patriarch. He ignored Ji Tianqing and continued to stare at the chessboard with a focused gaze. Ji Tianqing could only stand at the side and wait quietly. Unknowingly, an hour had passed. The Shao clan's patriarch seemed to have finally thought of the answer. A bright light flashed across his deep eyes. Smack! The black chess piece in his right hand landed on the chessboard on the stone table with a crisp sound. When the chess piece landed, a majestic aura erupted from his body. It was as if he had just come alive. It was only then that Ji Tianqing asked, "Senior, who are you playing chess with?" The Shao clan's patriarch didn't look at him. He pointed above his head and said a word in a deep voice. "Heaven." Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows as a playful smile appeared on his face. "Senior, you're playing chess with the heavens. This reminds me of something in the past. There was once a paragon expert who lived in seclusion and used his great abilities to observe the heavens and the world. He also set up a huge chess game in the square outside his residence and spent thousands of years playing chess with the heavens." The Shao clan's patriarch was slightly moved, and a bright light flashed across his eyes. He then raised his head and looked deeply at Ji Tianqing. He raised his eyebrows and asked, "What was the result?" Ji Tianqing smiled and raised a finger. "He won against the heavens and left." "Left, by the heavens?" The Shao clan's patriarch's expression changed. His eyes shone brightly as he asked, "That person was an essence soul paragon?" Ji Tianqing nodded and said in a serious tone, "That senior observed the heavens and the world and played chess with the heavens for 8,000 years. He went through 9 heavenly tribulations and finally broke through the void and went to another continent." "Another continent?" The Shao clan's patriarch's expression changed drastically as he stood up. He was so agitated that the white beard on his chin was trembling. He grabbed Ji Tianqing's arm and asked, "You know all this? Do you know how to go to that continent? Is it only by entering that continent can one see the secrets of the heavenly tribulations and becoming a saint?" Obviously, the Shao clan's patriarch knew very little about the other continent, but he yearned for it. Ji Tianqing shook his head lightly and said calmly, "I have just entered the soul-tempering stage and have only heard about the other continent recently. I know very little about it. How would I know the way to go to that continent?" The Shao clan's patriarch nodded slightly and calmed down. He sat back down on the stone bench. He looked at Ji Tianqing expressionlessly and asked in a deep voice, "You are the Ji Tianqing that Shao Han mentioned in the letter?" "That's right, I am," Ji Tianqing replied in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. The Shao clan's patriarch said calmly, "No matter how famous you are in the middle ground, it has nothing to do with me. The Shao clan has never interfered in the affairs of the continent. This old man has already ordered Xiao Han to bring you here after the Holy Fire Festival. You came uninvited and trespassed into my cave abode. Aren't you afraid that I will punish you? Ji Tianqing saw that he was showing signs of anger, but he was not worried. He smiled and said, "Senior, please don't be angry. Please listen to my story. 1,000 years ago, the ancient demon emperor wreaked havoc in the world. He invaded the middle ground and cruelly massacred millions of people. At that time, a peerless prodigy appeared in the human race. He single-handedly defeated the army of 1,000,000 demons and killed the ancient demon emperor with one sword. He sealed him in the Tianqin region. A few years later, the chaos of the demons was quelled, and this peerless prodigy became the publicly acknowledged strongest person in the continent. With just one sword, he broke all the laws in the world and killed all the strong enemies. Everyone in the world called him Kenshin. Hearing this, the Shao clan's patriarch's expression changed drastically. His deep eyes surged with light, and his expression became extremely solemn. Ji Tianqing continued, "Everyone thinks that Kenshin is arrogant, cold, and heartless. He will never take in disciples in his life. However, very few people know that although Kenshin does not take in disciples, he once guided a few young talents and taught 4 young geniuses. Among the 4, one of them happened to have the surname Shao. Senior, don't you think this is very coincidental?" After saying that, he looked at the Shao clan's patriarch with a smile. The Shao clan's patriarch frowned. His entire body was wrapped in a layer of coldness, and a majestic divine spirit power was accumulated in his body. He stared at Ji Tianqing warily and asked in a cold voice, "Kid, who are you? How do you know this secret?" Ji Tianqing looked straight at him. His chest was open, and he said righteously, "The successor of the sword god." Ha ha ha. The Shao clan's patriarch raised his head and laughed loudly. His entire body erupted with rage, and his aura skyrocketed. Ridiculous. The sword god had already fallen 1,000 years ago. How old are you? How dare you tease me like this? Aren't you afraid that I'll break your neck? Before Ji Tianqing could speak, the ancient voice of the burial of heaven came from the broken sword. Chapter 1177. The burial of heaven's voice rang out under the green maple tree, and Ji Tianqing and the Shao clan's patriarch were stunned. The Shao clan's patriarch's body stiffened, and his expression changed drastically. His deep eyes were filled with disbelief. He thought that he had heard wrongly and was somewhat unsure. After being stunned for a while, he muttered, "What a familiar voice. Could it be burial of heaven?" Ji Tianqing also came back to his senses. His gaze was a little strange as he looked at the Shao clan's patriarch with a half-smile. He thought to himself, "Dumbo. Why would the burial of heaven call him that?" In his opinion, the Shao clan's patriarch had single-handedly created the huge Shao clan, and his own strength had reached the peak of the spirit refinement realm. He was comparable to the human race's imperial tutor. How could such a godlike figure have such a cliché nickname? Wasn't this too down to earth? At that moment, the broken sword flew out and floated in front of the Shao clan's patriarch. The burial of heaven's voice rang out from the broken sword again. "Dumbo Shao, looks like you haven't forgotten me." The Shao clan's patriarch saw the broken sword with his own eyes and heard the burial of heaven's voice. He was so excited that his face was flushed red, and his eyes were filled with excitement and surprise. "Burial of heaven. It's really you. It's unbelievable. I didn't expect to see you again after 1,000 years." The unparalleled surprise made his excited voice tremble a little, and the white beard on his chin also trembled. The burial of heaven's tone was a little playful as he asked, "Dumbo Shao, 1,000 years have passed. Have you gone to heaven?" "Ahem." The excited Shao clan's patriarch's face flushed red, and he hurriedly coughed twice to hide his awkwardness. Ji Tianqing's interest was piqued when he saw his strange expression and awkward expression. He thought to himself, what kind of joke is this? Looks like the Shao clan's patriarch had a story when he was young. To resolve the awkwardness, the Shao clan's patriarch hurriedly changed the topic and asked, Burial of Heaven, I haven't seen you for 1,000 years. How did you become like this? Why was the divine sword broken? Also, is Master really like what the legends say? Did he really fall long ago? Burial of Heaven said leisurely, it's a long story. The Shao clan's patriarch opened his eyes wide and looked at the broken sword expectantly. It's fine, I have enough time. You can tell me slowly. After Master left, I have been diligently cultivating day and night. I have not let down Master's guidance and teachings. Unfortunately, not long after I reached the soul-refining realm, news of my Master's death spread throughout the continent. I traveled across the entire continent and spent more than 200 years searching through all kinds of ancient ruins and forbidden grounds. I only wanted to find a way to leave the Tianxian land. I really want to verify the authenticity of the news and investigate the truth of the matter. The Shao clan's patriarch recounted the past in a low voice. His eyes were filled with reminiscence and nostalgia. Although Kenshin had never taken him in as a disciple, he had only given him pointers and taught him. However, he had always considered himself as a disciple of Kenshin. He would always remember the kindness of his teacher's teachings, and he respected and worshipped Kenshin to the extreme. Moreover, his feelings and experiences were very similar to Emperor Ye's. After he finished speaking, Burial of Heaven said calmly, regarding this matter, I will slowly tell you in detail in the future. After 1,000 years, I have also suffered serious damage. My memory is incomplete, and I can't remember clearly what happened back then. If you want to investigate the truth and achieve your wish, you have to do your best to help Ji Tianqing. He is our hope. What Burial of Heaven said was the same as what it had said to Emperor Yi back then. Hearing its words, the Shao clan's patriarch immediately raised his eyebrows and looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief. In that case, this kid is really Master's successor. Of course. Burial of Heaven said in a solemn tone, he has already inherited Kenshin's bloodline and ultimate techniques. He reached the soul-refining realm at the age of 20, and his name shook the world. Shao Han should have introduced him to you. He is the #1 genius of the human race, the #1 monster of the continent, a rare genius that even the Demon Emperor feared. His talent and aptitude are more than 10 times stronger than yours, and are on par with Kenshin back then. Only he can help you fulfill your and Yi Hengchuan's wish. The Shao clan's patriarch was stunned. He looked at Ji Tianqing with a solemn expression, and his eyes revealed deep admiration. A month ago, Shao Han sent a message, reporting that Ji Tianqing wanted to see him. Shao Han introduced Ji Tianqing in detail, saying that he was the #1 genius of the human race, the most monstrous genius of the Emperor's son. The Shao clan's patriarch was only skeptical and didn't take it to heart. But now, Burial of Heaven had personally said these words to him, and its evaluation of Ji Tianqing was the same as Kenshin's. How could he not be shocked? He had never dared to imagine that there was actually a genius in this world who could reach the height of his master Kenshin. In his opinion, this was absolutely impossible. In his heart, Kenshin was unique and irreplaceable. A moment later, he calmed down and asked Burial of Heaven, Burial of Heaven, you mentioned Yi Hengchuan just now. You've already met him? Burial of Heaven said calmly, that's right. Just a few months ago, we met him in the Mangu mountain range. His situation is very similar to yours. He has also fallen into the shackles of the essence soul realm and has been unable to break through for 200 years. However, it's just that the time is not right for him, and his providence has yet to be bestowed upon him. When the time is right, he will naturally soar into the sky and become a supreme. The Shao clan's patriarch had lived in seclusion and cultivated bitterly for hundreds of years. He comprehended the secrets of heaven all day and played games with the heavens, all for the sake of breaking through to the essence soul realm. There was nothing more attractive than breaking through to the essence soul realm. Burial of Heaven's words made his heart beat faster, and his eyes shone brightly. He immediately asked, when will his time be right? When will his providence be bestowed upon him? Burial of Heaven said solemnly, this question will depend on Ji Tianqing. Emperor Ye's providence and opportunity are on Ji Tianqing. The Shao clan's patriarch frowned and looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief. Burial of Heaven responded and did not say anything else. Its words just now had already revealed too many secrets. The Shao clan's patriarch knew about Ji Tianqing's identity and importance, so he knew what to do next. He looked at Ji Tianqing with a burning gaze and asked, Tianqing, why have you come to the Shao clan to look for me? Ji Tianqing cupped his hands and bowed to him. He said solemnly, Senior, the situation in the Tianxian continent is getting worse and worse. The tragedy and disaster from 1,000 years ago is about to happen again. 1,000 years ago, Kenshin suppressed the demon emperor in the Tianxian region. However, 2.5 years ago, the demon emperor broke through the seal and returned to his lair in the northern desert. With the demon emperor overseeing the northern desert, the demon clan regained their vitality and attacked the humans, demons, and water clans with great ambition. Moreover, the bloodline curse that has always existed in the demon clan has also been removed. The demon clan's power is growing rapidly. Soon, they will sweep the world and the entire Tianxian continent. Chapter 1178. Faced with Ji Tianqing's request, the Shao clan's patriarch hurriedly extended his hands and helped him up. Tianqing, please get up. Ji Tianqing insisted on bowing and said with a sincere expression, Senior, Kenshin and the demon race had deep enmity back then. Now that I have inherited the Kenshin bloodline and ultimate technique, I have also inherited his dying wish. I am at odds with the demon race and have an irreconcilable enmity. Not only do I have to protect myself and my friends, but I also have to exterminate the demon race and return peace to the various races of the continent. It is impossible for me to do it alone, so I have to ask for your help to complete this great task. The Shao clan's patriarch nodded solemnly and said slowly, 1,000 years ago, I created the Shao clan. In order for the Shao clan to continue on and not be destroyed quickly, I chose to live in seclusion here and requested the Shao clan's disciples not to interfere with the worldly affairs of the various races of the continent. Originally, the demon race was rampant on the continent and wantonly attacked the various races' territories. All these had nothing to do with the Shao clan. However, since you are my master's disciple, have amazing talent, and have also inherited my master's dying wish, I will of course not reject you. This old man promises you that when you need my help, I will personally come out and assist you. Seeing that he had finally agreed, Ji Tianqing heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly bowed to express his gratitude. Thank you for your help, Senior. The Shao clan's patriarch smiled and nodded. You don't have to thank me. Perhaps we are helping each other in this matter. I have lived in seclusion here for 1,000 years, and finally, I have waited for you. In the future, whether I can improve further and break through to the Essence Soul realm, whether I can leave this continent, all depends on you. As he spoke, he took out 2 dark green jade slips from his interspatial ring and handed them to Ji Tianqing. Tianqing, here are 2 communication jade slips. If you need help in the future, just send me a message, and I will do my best to help. After receiving the Shao clan's patriarch's promise, Ji Tianqing was satisfied and hurriedly accepted the 2 jade slips. Then, he sat opposite the Shao clan's patriarch under the green maple tree and started chatting. The Shao clan's patriarch looked at Ji Tianqing with interest and asked doubtfully, Tianqing, I've been living in seclusion here for hundreds of years. This old man is very puzzled. How did you know that this old man had received guidance from my master, Kenshin? Ji Tianqing revealed a faint smile and explained, this matter is rather interesting. I came to this conclusion through a treasure box from 1,000 years ago. A few months ago, the 3rd prince of the imperial court held a birthday banquet and invited Xiao Han and me. I personally came, but Xiao Han didn't. He just casually took out a treasure box as a congratulatory gift. He told the Shao clan's patriarch everything that had happened. After the Shao clan's patriarch heard this, he finally understood how complicated the situation was. He could not help but reveal a bitter smile and shake his head, sigh. This is really a coincidence. Back then, when this old man was roaming the continent, I coincidentally obtained a top-notch refining material, the star sand. I placed it in a treasure box and sealed it with the array formation taught by my master. This old man originally wanted to keep this item and use it when I wanted to refine a divine artifact or dharma treasure. I didn't expect that, after hundreds of years, this old man still couldn't break through the shackles and couldn't reach the essence soul realm, let alone refine a divine artifact. That star sand was placed there for hundreds of years. Later on, this old man also forgot about this matter. This old man also doesn't remember clearly when I gave that star sand to my children and grandchildren. I didn't expect that this item would eventually wander out and be found by you. Speaking of the origin of that star sand, the Shao clan's patriarch was filled with emotions. Ji Tianqing chuckled and said, "Senior, perhaps this is the magical part of fate. If it wasn't for that star sand, how could I have guessed your identity? How could I have found you?" "Yes, indeed." The Shao clan's patriarch nodded slightly to express his agreement. The two of them chatted for a while more before Ji Tianqing stood up, bowed, and took his leave. After bidding farewell to the Shao clan's patriarch, he left the Pillar of Heaven's mountains and flew across the sky at lightning speed, returning to Tingfeng Garden. During the journey, he couldn't suppress the doubts in his heart and sent a voice transmission to Burial of Heaven, asking, "Burial of Heaven, why did you call the Shao clan's patriarch Dumbo? Is that his nickname?" "That's right." Burial of Heaven replied and said with a playful tone, "Although this fellow is now a top-notch powerhouse in the continent, the Shao clan's patriarch that ordinary people rarely see, he was very stubborn. When he was young, he was very stubborn and did things very rashly, so I always called him Dumbo." Ji Tianqing nodded and asked, "Previously, you asked if he had ever ascended to the sky. What did that mean?" Burial of Heaven's tone became even more playful. "This fellow's name is Shao Wentian. When he was young, he was a martial arts fanatic. He cultivated like a madman, not knowing fatigue or pain. He once said that his greatest dream was to ascend to the heavens and explore the starry sky beyond the heavens. He wanted to roam the Milky Way. At that time, other than diligently cultivating the sword Tao, the most common thing he did was to stand on the roof like a block of wood and look up at the sky." Hearing this, Ji Tianqing immediately imagined the corresponding scene in his mind, and he couldn't help but laugh. Burial of Heaven continued. Later, he reached the heaven origin stage and could finally fly. He couldn't wait to fly high into the sky and pass through the clouds, wanting to fly beyond the heavens. Ji Tianqing's interest was piqued, and he couldn't help but ask, "What was the result? Is there a need to guess the result?" Before he could even touch the astral winds in the sky, his true essence was exhausted and he fell head first, almost falling to his death. "Ha!" Ji Tianqing couldn't help but laugh, and said in a mocking tone, "It's really hard to imagine that he had such a ridiculous experience when he was young. No wonder when you asked him if he had ever ascended to the sky, he was so embarrassed that his old face turned red." Burial of Heaven talked about a few more things about Shao Wentian's past, and Ji Tianqing couldn't help but laugh all the way back to Tingfeng Garden. He finally understood why Burial of Heaven gave Shao Wentian the nickname of a fool. When he returned to Tingfeng Garden, it was already afternoon. Shao Ling'er listened to his advice and prepared for the Holy Fire Festival's examination, and went to cultivate in peace. He returned to his room to rest for a while, and saw Shao Han return with a tired face. Thus, he greeted Shao Han. "Lord Divine General, why do you look so pale?" Shao Han nodded at him in return, and explained, "Just now, I helped third uncle refine the magic treasure, and used up a lot of magic power, but I'll be fine after a night's rest." Ji Tianqing thought for a while, and then said, "Lord Divine General, I've already met the Shao clan's patriarch, and I've already achieved my goal of coming to the Shao clan, so I'm preparing to leave." "Ah!" Shao Han was stunned, and said with a face full of astonishment, "Where did you meet the patriarch? He didn't blame you, did he?" Chapter 1179. My forefather had a good chat with you. He even agreed to your request. Shao Han's body trembled as he looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief. His eyes were filled with shock as he could not believe it. After all, the Shao clan's forefather held a very high position and even he had only met him twice. After a moment of silence, he could not help but ask, "Tianqing, I have a question in my heart, but I've been holding it in. Can you tell me what's the relationship between you and my forefather? Why did you come to the Shao clan to look for my forefather?" Ji Tianqing revealed a smile and said, "Sir Divine General, I do have some relationship with your forefather, but as for what it is, please forgive me for not being able to reveal it. As for the reason why I came to look for your forefather. If I told you that I want to ask him to come out and help me save the Tianxian continent, would you believe me? Ask my forefather to help you save the Tianxian continent." Shao Han was stunned as he looked at him strangely. He did not know whether to laugh or cry as he said, "Tianqing, it's fine if it's not convenient for you to reveal it. Why do you have to make fun of me?" Ji Tianqing looked at him with a faint smile and said with a playful tone, "I'm telling you the truth, but you don't believe me. Then there's nothing I can do." Shao Han smiled bitterly and said, "Our Shao clan has never interfered with worldly affairs. How could my forefather help you save the continent?" Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said, "Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. I've finished my business and achieved my purpose in coming to the Shao clan. I'll take my leave now." Shao Han immediately persuaded him to stay. "Tianqing, you don't have to be in a hurry to leave. Tomorrow night is the Holy Fire Festival, a grand festival that happens once every 20 years. Since you're here, of course you should watch the ceremony before you leave. Besides, if you want to leave now, I can't send you off or lead the way for you. Why don't you stay for one more day? After the Holy Fire Festival ends, we'll leave together. What do you think?" Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and nodded, "All right, since you've said so, I'll wait for one more day." The matter was settled. Ji Tianqing stayed in Tingfeng Garden for the time being. He would leave with Shao Han after the Holy Fire Festival ended. Shao Han's face was full of weariness. His magic power was exhausted, so he returned to his room to meditate and adjust his breathing. Ji Tianqing had nothing to do, so he went to the weapon forging workshop to watch the third elder forge a magic weapon. In order to help the third elder refine the magic treasure as soon as possible, he also lent a helping hand. Using his vast and boundless magic power, he added 2 more restrictive magic arrays on the magic treasure. In this way, the refining speed of the magic treasure would be much faster, and the power of the magic treasure after it was refined would increase by about 50%. During this process, he also exchanged insights with the third elder and learned a lot from him. Unknowingly, 12 hours had passed. When Ji Tianqing left the armament workshop, it was already late at night. As soon as he returned to the verdant pine courtyard, he saw a black shadow flash by in the dark night. The black shadow was extremely fast and agile. In the blink of an eye, it flew out of the verdant pine courtyard. Even so, Ji Tianqing's superb eyesight and powerful spiritual power were still able to detect some information. He could see that the black shadow was a middle-aged man wearing a black robe and a mask. His strength was around Sky Origin Stage LV8. Moreover, the black shadow was very unfamiliar. His movements were sneaky, and he seemed to have ill intentions. With his powerful spiritual power, he memorized the spiritual aura of the masked man and secretly detected his escape route. The masked man was very familiar with the terrain of Tingfeng Garden. After flying out of the verdant pine courtyard, he quietly avoided several sentry posts and guards and left Tingfeng Garden. Ji Tianqing's soul power silently spread out and detected that the masked man was flying in the northwest direction. He did not chase after him. Instead, he returned to his room with a calm expression and pondered silently. This man is very familiar with the terrain and guards of Tingfeng Garden. He should be from the Shao clan. If he is from the Shao clan, why is he wearing a black robe and a mask and sneaking out of the verdant pine courtyard? No one usually lives in this courtyard. Only Shao Han and I live here. No. There must be a conspiracy. Thinking of this, Ji Tianqing immediately released his spiritual power and extended it in all directions to investigate the entire verdant pine courtyard. Under the cover of his powerful spiritual power, every brick and tile, every inch of the walls and floor of the verdant pine courtyard appeared clearly in his mind. He quickly detected that there was a trace of true origin left in his room. That trace of true origin was the same as the masked man's aura. Therefore, he stepped into the room and looked around with a burning gaze. He also used his spiritual power to search carefully. After a few breaths, he found something strange on the floor under the wooden bed. On the floor in the corner of the room, a basin-sized green brick showed signs of loosening. He stretched out his hand and pulled the heavy wooden bed away. He lifted the dark green floor tile and saw a square black treasure box buried in the ground. Swoosh! He shot out a ray of golden light and wrapped it around the treasure box. He held it in front of him and looked at it carefully. He saw that the treasure box was very classical in style. Its surface was carved with exquisite patterns, and it exuded an ancient aura. Probably because the treasure box was often played with, the edges and corners had been polished and smooth. The treasure box was sealed by a powerful array, and it faintly exuded a magnificent fluctuation of spiritual qi. Ji Tianqing frowned and thought for a while. He started to cast a spell to break the seal on the treasure box. After about an hour, he broke the seal and opened the treasure box with a click. Suddenly, the treasure box emitted a dazzling five-colored light, and it overflowed with a vast amount of spiritual qi. Ji Tianqing lowered his head to take a look and saw a fist-sized five-colored crystal in the treasure box. It was translucent and exquisite as it glowed. Could it be a top-notch magic treasure? Or a gem material? He raised his eyebrows and held the five-colored diamond-shaped crystal. He injected a trace of magic power into it. Suddenly, the five-colored crystal emitted a dazzling light and condensed into a light screen in front of him. On the 2-meter-wide light screen, lines of ancient seal characters appeared. All of them were shining with dazzling light. Ji Tianqing looked at it and realized that the 2,000-odd words on the light screen were a profound and obscure cultivation technique. He. I didn't expect it to be a soul-level cultivation technique. Interesting. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sneer as a cold light flashed in his eyes. He did not need to investigate to know that this cultivation technique was the core secret of the Shao clan. It was the most precious and priceless treasure. As for the other party's intentions, it was clear as day. You want to trick me? Then I'll beat you at your own game. Ji Tianqing murmured as he put the five-colored crystal back into the treasure box, putting it back in its original state. Chapter 1180. 80 miles to the northwest of Tingfeng Garden was the manor where the second family lived. Ji Tianqing walked through the night like a ghost and landed quietly in the manor. There were guards both inside and outside the manor and it was heavily guarded. However, no one could detect him. Not even his aura could be sensed. After sneaking around the manor for a while, he sensed the spiritual aura of the masked man. It was in a secret chamber underground. Hence, he sneaked into the ground and stuck close to the wall of the secret chamber. He used a secret technique to investigate the situation in the secret chamber. In the dark secret chamber, there were only two people who were whispering to each other. One of them was a young man in a brocade robe. It was Xiao Chong. The other person was a middle-aged man in a black robe with a veil covering his face. Xiao Chong looked at the masked man and asked with anticipation, "Father, is the matter settled?" The masked man nodded slightly, and said with a tone full of conceit, "Of course, nothing will go wrong if I take action for my father. Don't worry, you will be able to enjoy a good show tomorrow night." Xiao Chong was so excited that his cheeks turned red. He laughed coldly and said, "Hee hee, that's great. This time, that kid is dead meat. In order to get our hands on the First Elder's soaring white sun scripture, we have put in a lot of effort and risked a lot of danger. Luckily, the plan succeeded. Everything was worth it." The masked man nodded and said with a sinister smile, "The soaring white sun scripture is a spirit-level cultivation skill created by our patriarch. It is also the reason why our Shao family has been able to pass it down for thousands of years. Such a peerless godly skill is a priceless treasure to our Shao family. Only the first elder of each generation can control it. Even I am not qualified to take a look at it. When tomorrow's Holy Fire Festival is exposed in front of the entire Shao family, that kid will have to bear the wrath of the entire Shao family. When that time comes, even Shao Han will not be able to protect him. Even Shao Han will be implicated." Xiao Chong nodded and laughed proudly. "Ha ha ha. That's right. A lowly branch family descendant dares to fight with us. He must have a death wish." Outside the secret chamber, Ji Tianqing was hiding underground. He heard the conversation between Xiao Chong and Xiao Chong clearly. "Just as I expected, Xiao Chong, that bastard, really wants to harm me. But I didn't expect that his father, Xiao Zhan, would personally make a move. He really spared no effort." Ji Tianqing muttered in his heart as a cold glint flashed across his eyes. He did not continue to listen to the conversation between Xiao Chong and his son. He quietly traveled underground for a while and entered a room. The furnishings of this room were very luxurious. There were abundant cultivation resources stored within, and it was also filled with a dense true essence aura. That was Xiao Chong's aura. This room must be Xiao Chong's bedroom. Thus, Ji Tianqing stretched out his hand and pressed it into the wall. His palm was as sharp as a blade, and he cut open the blue stone wall effortlessly. He took out the treasure box from his spatial ring and hid it in the wall. Then, he rubbed his palms against the green stone wall and used his qi to smooth it out, leaving no traces behind. After doing this, he quietly left the room and left the manor. Throughout the entire process, he did not make a single sound, nor did he alert anyone. 15 minutes later, he returned to his residence in Tingfeng Garden. He sat in his room and meditated. The night passed very quickly. After dawn, the entire Shao clan was bustling with activity. Today was the day of the Holy Fire Festival. It would be held tonight at Evergreen Mountain. Evergreen Mountain was the main peak of this mountain range. It was also where the disciples of the first branch resided. There was not only a vast and luxurious manor on that 1,000-zhang tall mountain, but there was also a plaza that could accommodate 10,000 people. In the north of the plaza stood a 300-zhang tall statue of the Shao clan's patriarch. Beside the statue was a 300-zhang tall ancient pine tree. It had a history of 1,000 years, but it was still dark green and full of vitality. That ancient pine tree was evergreen. It also meant that the Shao clan would always be prosperous and evergreen. This was also where the name Evergreen Mountain came from. Early in the morning, the disciples of the Shao clan started to get busy. Countless young disciples and servants rushed to the plaza of Evergreen Mountain to clean up the fallen leaves and decorate the venue for the Holy Fire Festival. The dozens of young disciples, including Xiao Ling and Xiao Chen, were cultivating intensely, repeatedly practicing the secret techniques of the martial Tao. These young disciples were going to participate in the Holy Fire Festival's test tonight and strive to get a good ranking in the test. The rules of the Shao clan were very straightforward and simple. Only the disciples with outstanding talent and aptitude could obtain more abundant cultivation resources and receive the guidance of senior experts. Only the two most outstanding young disciples were qualified to leave the Shao clan and venture out into the outside world. For the entire day, the disciples of the Shao clan's ninth branch discussed, filled with anticipation for the Holy Fire Festival tonight. Everyone was discussing which young genius would obtain the top 2 spots and obtain the qualification to leave the Shao clan. Some people believed that Shao Chong and Shao Ku would obtain the top 2 spots. However, there were also people who felt that the top 2 spots would be Shao Chen and Shao Ling. Aside from these people, there were a few other genius disciples who also had a chance to obtain the top 2 spots. In short, the disciples of the various branches all had different opinions. Ji Tianqing was not interested in this. No matter who passed the Holy Fire Festival's test or who could leave the Shao clan, it had nothing to do with him. Shao Chen sat in his room and meditated until evening. Then, he walked out of his room and rushed to Evergreen Mountain. Shao Chen's expression was as calm as water. However, a thought flashed in his mind. There will definitely be a good show to watch tonight. Thinking of this, Shao Chen's lips curled up in a playful, cold smile. At the same time, a melodious voice called out to him from behind. "Elder brother Tianqing, please wait a moment." Ji Tianqing stopped and turned his head to look behind him. He saw Shao Ling and Shao Chen flying over as fast as the wind. The two stopped in front of Shao Chen, their faces filled with joy and gratitude. "Elder brother Tianqing, thank you so much. Young Master Tianqing, many thanks for your help." The two greeted Ji Tianqing and bowed to him to express their gratitude. Ji Tianqing guessed the reason. He asked with a calm expression, "Have you finished refining your magic treasures and obtained them?" "Yes." Shao Ling quickly nodded and said excitedly, "We finished refining our magic treasures this afternoon. After a few hours of practice, we can already familiarize ourselves with them. Third Grandpa told us that if not for your help, he would not have been able to refine them so quickly. Furthermore, you specially added 2 restriction formations on our magic treasures, increasing their might by 50%. Shao Chong, Shao Ku, and Shao Shui's magic treasures cannot be compared to ours." As she spoke, a white light surged in her palm, and a sword flickering with silver light appeared. Chapter 1181. Shao Ling and Shao Chen followed Ji Tianqing, one on his left and one on his right. The two were very close and respectful to Ji Tianqing, treating him like a god. The three flew through the night sky. Along the way to Evergreen Mountain, they met many Shao clan disciples. The Shao clan members from the various branches were all rushing to Evergreen Mountain in groups of 3 to 5. There were men and women, young and old. They were all filled with anticipation for the Holy Fire Festival tonight, discussing it as they traveled. Shao Chen and Shao Ling were famous people of the Shao clan's younger generation, the most outstanding martial Dao geniuses. They attracted attention wherever they went. Along the way, people continuously greeted the two. When the crowd saw Ji Tianqing, they found him very unfamiliar and could not help sizing him up. This was especially so when Shao Chen and Shao Ling treated Ji Tianqing warmly and respectfully. This made the crowd even more curious about Ji Tianqing's identity. Soon, the three arrived at Evergreen Mountain and landed in the vast plaza. Thousands of people were already waiting in the plaza, which was 1 kilometer in diameter. Bonfires were set up around the plaza. The flames rose fiercely, illuminating the pitch-black night sky. About 4,000 Shao clan members were divided into 9 regions, standing in the plaza. There was a tall arena 100 meters in diameter in the center of the plaza. A strong spirit-grade formation protected the arena. No matter how the young geniuses fought in the arena, it would not affect the people in the plaza. After Ji Tianqing, Shao Ling and Shao Ling arrived at the plaza, they walked into the crowd of the third branch disciples. The three stood still in the crowd, waiting for the Holy Fire Festival to start while sizing up the surroundings. The plaza was bustling with noise and excitement. Everyone was discussing, and countless people had expectant smiles on their faces. Many young disciples were also rubbing their fists, eager to give it a try. Naturally, Xiaoling and Xiao Chen were somewhat excited. They were very confident about tonight's test. However, the two of them did not look around. They kept Ji Tianqing by his side, telling him about the origin of the Holy Fire Festival and some of the interesting things related to it. Ji Tianqing listened quietly, nodding or commenting from time to time. His expression remained indifferent the whole time. Suddenly, he felt a few sharp auras staring at him from the shadows. He turned his head and saw a well-dressed young man staring at him coldly from the crowd of the second branch disciples next door. That young man was Xiao Chong. He was surrounded by a group of disciples from the second branch. His expression was cold, but there was a sneer in his eyes. Xiao Ku and a few other young men of the Xiao clan were among the people of the fourth and fifth branches who were further away. They cast their cold gazes at him from time to time. Obviously, these people all had their own thoughts and were waiting to watch a good show. Ji Tianqing couldn't be bothered to pay attention to them as he chatted and laughed with Xiaoling with an indifferent expression. Not long after, there was a commotion in the crowd, and there were exclamations and discussions. "The elders are here. Get out of the way. The Holy Fire Festival is about to begin." When Ji Tianqing heard the crowd's shouts, he looked in the direction of the sound and saw a group of elders in purple robes walking over in a dignified manner. Swish! 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 A total of 8 elders passed through the crowd in the square and flew to the arena in a row. Other than the third elder, all the elders from the 8 branches were present. The leader was a tall and burly elder with white hair and a beard. This person was the current ruler of the Xiao clan, the first elder with the most authority. His bright eyes swept across the square as he raised his hand slightly to signal for the crowd to quieten down. Instantly, the thousands of Xiao clan members in the square quietened down and didn't make any noise. This was the prestige of the first elder. Every action of his could command the entire Xiao clan, and no one dared to disobey him. In fact, the first elder was the third most respected person in the Xiao clan. The most respected person was of course the Xiao clan's patriarch, Xiao Wentian. However, he was the Xiao clan's patriarch and hadn't been involved in worldly affairs for hundreds of years. In the hearts of the Xiao clan members, he had become their spiritual leader and was almost like a deity. Second only to the Xiao clan's patriarch was the Grand Elder. However, the Grand Elder was in seclusion all year round and rarely interfered with the clan's affairs. Therefore, the first elder, who was ranked third, was the ruler of the Xiao clan. His words were the law. As everyone knows, tonight is the Holy Fire Festival that is held once every 20 years in the Xiao clan. Since the patriarch set this rule 1,000 years ago, it has continued to this day and has never been changed. The patriarch's motive for setting the Holy Fire Festival is to give the young disciples of the Xiao clan an opportunity to interact and improve their relationship. It is also an opportunity for everyone to showcase their strengths. Most importantly, the Holy Fire Festival is to test the results of everyone's cultivation. The first elder looked at the crowd sternly and said solemnly, "In this world, cultivation resources are always in the hands of the minority. Only the martial arts elites and geniuses have the right to enjoy and distribute resources. Regardless of whether it is the aristocratic families, sects, or any other forces, they have to follow the law of survival of the fittest. Therefore, tonight's test will determine the strength ranking of the 48 young disciples. The 2 strongest disciples would be rewarded handsomely. They would be able to leave the Xiao clan and head to the central region to explore the world. The remaining 46 disciples will also enjoy different levels of resources and treatment according to their rankings. Destiny is ultimately in your own hands. Whether you live a mediocre life or shine brilliantly, it will all depend on how much effort you put in." The first elder said these words with a solemn expression. His voice spread throughout the entire plaza, causing the expressions of the thousands of people to turn solemn. The atmosphere was extremely solemn. The 48 young disciples were all motivated to the point that their blood was boiling. Their hearts were filled with fighting spirit. The thousands of bonfires around the plaza were like their emotions. They were burning fiercely and surging with high spirits. The first elder paused for a moment before announcing with a solemn expression, "Tonight's test will follow the usual practice." The second elder will start with the preliminary ranking of the 48 disciples. Only the young disciples who have reached the heavenly origin stage and above are qualified to enter the arena and draw lots to fight. This seat and the other elders will be overseeing the situation together. After the first elder finished speaking, the skinny second elder took a step forward and announced loudly, "Those who are 16 years old and have not participated in the test, step forward." Following the second elder's command, Xiao Ling Xiao Chen, and the others immediately walked out of the crowd and walked to the arena. Within the ninth branch, there were a total of 48 young disciples standing in a circle around the arena. Among these young disciples, there were 19 females and 29 males. They were all between 16 and 35 years old. Among them, the strongest people, such as Xiao Chen, Xiao Ling Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku, were all around the fourth level of the heavenly origin stage. As for the weaker disciples, they were all at the origin core stage and the seventh or eighth level of the Tongxian stage. The second elder's gaze swept across the crowd like lightning and quickly announced the preliminary ranking. Only 12 young disciples had reached the heavenly origin stage and were qualified to enter the arena. Chapter 1182. Let's not talk about the 36 disciples who had not reached the sky origin realm for now. The strength of these people was clear at a glance. They would be ranked according to their realms and given different resources and treatment. Anyway, the thousands of Xiao clansmen in the square did not pay much attention to these people. Everyone's eyes and expectations were all focused on Xiao Chen, Xiao Ling and the others. After the second elder announced the rankings and treatment of the 36 people, he looked at Xiao Chen and the others with a dignified gaze. There are 12 disciples who have reached the sky origin realm in this holy fire festival. According to everyone's strength, I will give the preliminary rankings as follows. First place, Xiao Chen, Xiao Ling Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Shui are tied. Second place, Xiao Pan and Xiao Gang are tied. Third place, Xiao Ying. Fourth place. The rankings announced by the second elder were only based on the strength of the 12 disciples. The final rankings would only be known after they went up on the stage. With a schwa sound, the great elder shot out 12 rays of golden light, which wrapped around 12 jade lots, floating in the gloomy night sky. Second elder, please draw lots for the 12 juniors. The second elder nodded slightly and shot out a few dazzling lights, which disrupted the 12 golden lights and divided them into 6 pairs. The first elder took out the 6 pairs of jade lots and read out the names on them. Xiao Ku against Xiao Gang. Xiao Chen against Xiao Pan. Xiao Ling against Xiao Ying. Xiao Chong against. When the first elder finished reading out the results of the draw, everyone secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The crowd in the square also burst into discussion. Luckily, the 5 geniuses tied for first place did not meet in the first round. Yes. Although the competition will go on for many rounds, and the strong ones will win in the end, if they meet in the first round, it will be a great loss to their strength. The top 2 of this year's assessment will definitely be chosen from those 5 geniuses. I wonder who will win. After the thousands of people in the square discussed for a while, the first elder announced the start of the competition. The first pair of disciples was Xiao Ku and Xiao Gang. Both of them were young men in their early 20s with a strong aura and were tall and sturdy. The martial techniques and secret techniques that they cultivated were mostly the same. Their styles were also violent and fierce. But the difference was that Xiao Ku was at the 4th level of Sky Origin stage, while Xiao Gang was only at the 3rd level of Sky Origin stage. The result was indisputable. After Xiao Ku and Xiao Gang fought intensely for 40 moves, Xiao Gang was defeated on the spot. The two of them fought fiercely in the arena. Saber light and sword shadows constantly burst forth, illuminating the dark night sky. Boom! The muffled sound spread throughout the entire evergreen mountain. It was very shocking. When Xiao Gang was defeated and left the arena in a somewhat sorry state, Xiao Ku revealed a complacent smile. He stood on the arena and looked down at Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling with a provocative gaze. Of course, Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were not convinced and glared back. Next, it was the turn of the second pair of young disciples. Xiao Chen stepped onto the arena and faced a young woman with a graceful figure, Xiao Pan. Xiao Pan knew that she was not as strong as Xiao Chen and could not defeat him. In order to preserve her strength and obtain a better ranking, she rationally chose to admit defeat. Xiao Chen easily won, but no one expressed any dissatisfaction. They all felt that this was a matter of course. Soon, Xiao Ling, Xiao Chong, Xiao Shui, and the other young geniuses stepped onto the arena to fight. These people were the most outstanding young geniuses of the Xiao clan. They were all at the heavenly origin stage and had cultivated profound martial techniques and secret techniques. Everyone displayed their strengths in the arena. They all executed the martial techniques they were most proficient in and used their strongest secret techniques. The ground shook and the mountains shook. Muffled sounds shook the sky. The thousands of people in the plaza were dazzled by the sight. They continuously cheered and applauded. The atmosphere in the plaza became more and more lively. The Xiao clan's people were all in high spirits as they discussed spiritedly. Even the 9 elders were very satisfied with the performance of the geniuses. They would occasionally nod their heads or give a few comments. Only Ji Tianqing stood silently in the crowd, watching the fights on the arena with an indifferent expression. The fights of these heavenly origin stage cultivators were too weak in his eyes. There was nothing to watch. Soon, 2 hours passed. After more than 10 fights, Xiao Gang, Xiao Pan, Xiao Ying, and the other young disciples had their rankings confirmed. Only Xiao Chen, Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, Xiao Ling and Xiao Shui were left. The top 5 had not been decided yet. They were about to enter the final fight. The highlight of the night was about to be played. The thousands of people in the plaza all burst out in excited cheers. They shouted excitedly and looked forward to it. The second elder drew lots for the 5 people to decide their opponents. Aside from Xiao Chong, who was lucky enough to get a bye, the other 4 had to fight against each other. The first match was Xiao Chen versus Xiao Ku. When the two of them revealed hostility and stepped into the arena with cold eyes, Ji Tianqing became slightly interested. He quietly watched the two of them fight. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ku already had a deep grudge. They both swore that they would defeat the other in front of everyone on the Holy Fire Festival's arena and take revenge. At this moment, the two of them stood still in the arena. They took out their magic treasures and attacked with all their might. Xiao Ku's magic treasure was a thick black saber. It weighed 5,000 kilograms and had the terrifying power to split mountains and rivers. As for Xiao Chen's magic treasure, it was the sun and moon magic seal. It released golden sunlight and silver moonlight. Originally, Xiao Ku was full of confidence and thought that he would definitely win tonight. But when Xiao Chen took out the sun and moon magic seal, his expression changed drastically. He revealed a look of disbelief. This is impossible. How can you have a magic treasure? Xiao Chong, Xiao Shui, and the others below the arena also revealed a look of astonishment. Their expressions became very ugly. They did not expect Xiao Chen to also have a magic treasure. Furthermore, the aura of the magic treasure was even stronger. Xiao Chen curled his lips and sneered, "Even you guys have magic treasures. Why can't I have one? Xiao Ku, I have waited for this night for 5 years. Since the day you framed my brother, I swore that I would defeat you in front of the entire clan during the Holy Fire Festival and trample you under my feet. Although Xiao Ku was flustered, he quickly calmed down. He retorted with a cold expression, "Xiao Chen, don't make slanderous accusations. Your brother violated the clan's rules and was punished by the elders." Xiao Chen's entire body was surging with anger. He shouted coldly, "You and I both know the truth of the matter. Wait until I trample you under my feet, then you can quibble." As soon as he finished speaking, his entire body surged with five-colored spiritual light. He poured his surging quintessence into the sun and moon magic seal. Overturning Sky Strike. The sun and moon magic seal became as big as a house on the spot. It flew into the night sky and released dozens of gold and silver light pillars that were as thick as buckets. They bombarded Xiao Ku's head. Chapter 1183. Rumble. 10-odd 100-meter-long gold and silver pillars of light flooded Xiao Ku's figure. Xiao Ku's saber light shadow was shattered into pieces. Following a deafening explosion, Xiao Ku was sent flying, crashing into the edge of the arena in a sorry state. Fortunately, the arena was protected by a soul-level grand array. That dark yellow light shield blocked him. Otherwise, he would have already fallen off the arena. How is this possible? How do you have such a strong magic treasure? Xiao Ku asked Xiao Chen angrily as he widened his eyes in horror. Blood continuously flowed out of his nose and mouth. However, Xiao Chen could not be bothered to explain. He grinned coldly and controlled the sun and moon seals again, launching an all-out attack at Xiao Ku. Cut the crap. You will definitely lose tonight. Sun Moon Heavenly River. Xiao Chen recklessly circulated his quintessence, causing the sun and moon seals to release a gold and silver light that covered the sky. The light surged towards Xiao Ku like a flood. Xiao Ku immediately panicked. He cursed in horror as he held his saber and fled into the distance. However, before he could get far, he was drowned by the gold and silver light. The boundless gold and silver light covered his body in wounds, forcing him to flee miserably in the arena. Xiao Chen chased after him and beat him up. He could not resist at all. He could only dodge and flee. The thousands of people around the arena were already dumbfounded. They were all dumbfounded as they watched this scene. Even the 8 elders felt that this was inconceivable. They revealed shocked expressions and started discussing secretly. Isn't Xiao Chen and Xiao Ku's strength about the same? Why is the difference in their combat prowess so great? It is the problem with the dermic seal in Xiao Chen's hand. That magic treasure is too strong. I heard that the 3rd elder was already severely injured when he refined magic treasures for Xiao Ku, Xiao Chong, and the others. He is beyond cure. Why did he refine another magic treasure for Xiao Chen? The magic treasure in Xiao Chen's hand has the 3rd elder's aura. It was indeed refined by him. But this is impossible. The 3rd elder was already injured to that extent. How could he refine a magic treasure? Strange, this is completely illogical. Just as everyone was discussing animatedly, the outcome of the battle on the arena had already been decided. Xiao Chen attacked continuously for 8 moves and used several powerful secret techniques. Finally, he defeated Xiao Ku. Xiao Ku was beaten black and blue. His entire body was covered in blood, and he lay on the arena like a dead dog. He no longer had the strength to escape and could only gasp for breath. Xiao Chen put away the sun and moon seal and held it in his palm. He used his foot to step on Xiao Ku's chest and shouted with a cold expression, "Xiao Ku, do you admit defeat?" At this point, Xiao Ku had already suffered a crushing defeat. No matter how angry and unwilling he was, he could only admit defeat in front of everyone. "I lost. Xiao Chen, you win." Hearing Xiao Ku admit defeat, Xiao Chen withdrew his foot. He glanced at him with disdain and walked off the stage. The great elder announced in a loud voice, "Xiao Chen has won this battle and entered the top 3. The second battle, Xiao Ling versus Xiao Chong. Xiao Ku was quickly carried off the arena. Xiao Ling and Xiao Chong flew onto the arena and stood still. The two were separated by 100 meters as they stared at each other coldly. Intense rage surged in their bodies. Xiao Ling drew her treasured sword that flickered with a silver light. She said arrogantly, "Xiao Chong, it is time for us to settle our grudges tonight. I do not wish to dwell on the previous grudges. Tonight, I will only make you kneel before my sword and beg for mercy." Xiao Chong stared coldly at the treasured sword in her hand. His pupils constricted, and his complexion darkened as he cursed, "Xiao Ling you and Xiao Chen are truly despicable and shameless, heartless and unscrupulous. The third elder is already so injured and does not have many years left to live. Yet, you actually forced him to refine a magic treasure for you. How can our Xiao clan have scum like you? You are simply not worthy of being the Xiao clan's disciples." Xiao Ling immediately revealed an expression of disdain. She smiled coldly and said, "Xiao Chong, the truly despicable and shameless people are you. If the third elder did not refine a magic treasure for you, why would he be so severely injured and suffer from hidden injuries? Don't think of stalling for time. I will defeat you in front of everyone right now and make you recognize reality." After she finished speaking, she did not hesitate to brandish her treasured sword, sending out 36 cold lights with all her might. They formed a huge plum-shaped sword flower and charged at Xiao Chong. Instantly, cold lights shot out from the arena, and the sword chi was oppressive. Xiao Chong's expression turned cold, and he quickly shut his mouth. He used all his strength to control the moon-breaking saber, sending out dozens of saber lights to block Xiao Ling's ferocious attacks. The saber lights and sword lights clashed, producing muffled pang, pang, pang sounds that echoed in the night sky. The thousands of people around the arena stared at the battlefield without blinking, holding their breaths as they watched the battle with rapt attention. Very quickly, 10 breaths of time passed. Xiao Ling and Xiao Chong exchanged 5 moves. Xiao Ling clearly had the upper hand, taking the initiative to attack. Xiao Chong was suppressed and kept retreating to dodge. He was beaten to the point that he could not raise his head, much less fight back. After 6 moves, he was injured by Xiao Ling. He vomited blood on the spot and crashed into the arena from midair. Before he could get up, Xiao Ling had already arrived before him and sent him flying with another sword strike. A bloody wound that was deep to the point bones could be seen instantly appeared on Xiao Chong's chest, and blood sprayed out from his mouth and nose. He flew out for an entire 100 meters and fiercely collided with the dark yellow defensive barrier before bouncing back and falling to the ground. This time, his injuries were even worse. He was already heavily injured, and his combat strength had greatly weakened. Even though he was filled with grief, indignation, and fury, and was unable to accept the fact that he had lost miserably. But it was meaningless for him to continue fighting, and he would only be madly ravaged by Xiao Ling. So, he struggled to get up from the ground and was about to admit defeat. But he never imagined that Xiao Ling would not give him the chance to admit defeat at all. She once again executed her ultimate technique, and she held the treasured sword with both hands and fiercely slashed down. Kaboom! Amidst a deafening loud sound, a silver moon sword light that was over 30 meters long descended from the sky and slashed onto Xiao Chong. Xiao Chong was struck to the ground on the spot, and one of his arms was chopped off as well, falling onto the arena. The power that could destroy heaven and earth actually knocked him out on the spot. His vision turned black, and he fell onto the ground, unconscious. If it were not for the Xiao clan's rule that it was not allowed to kill in a battle, Xiao Chong would probably have been killed by Xiao Ling. After a long time, the silver light that filled the sky dissipated. Xiao Ling held the treasured sword in her left hand and carried the unconscious Xiao Chong with her right hand. She dragged him like she was carrying a dead dog and threw him off the arena. Such a scene immediately made everyone stare with wide eyes, revealing a face full of shock. No one dared to believe that the always clever, and cute Xiao Ling actually had such a violent side. Only Xiao Ling herself knew that the reason why she ravaged Xiao Chong like this was to vent the anger in her heart. Chapter 1184. Xiao Ku and Xiao Chong were defeated one after another. Both of them ended up in a miserable state. One was covered in injuries like a dead dog, while the other was covered in blood and unconscious. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling's performance shocked everyone in the Xiao clan. They felt that it was unbelievable. Even the 8 elders had a whole new level of respect for them. They felt that the top 2 in the assessment would definitely be theirs. Of the top 5 young geniuses, only 3 remained: Xiao Chen, Xiao Ling and Xiao Shui. Among the 3, one of them would definitely be eliminated. The other 2 would obtain the top 2 positions and obtain the right to leave the Xiao clan. Xiao Chong was still unconscious, and Xiao Zhan was circulating his energy to save him. Xiao Ku suppressed his anger and humiliation, and stayed below the ring. His face was distorted with anger as he stared at Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling with hatred. He muttered to himself, "We have not lost yet. There is still Xiao Shui. She still has hope." As he spoke, he turned his head to look at Xiao Shui, who was in the crowd, with high hopes in his eyes. However, Xiao Shui had her head lowered, and no one knew what she was thinking. She did not see Xiao Ku's gaze. Her expression was very ugly, and her eyes were as cold as ice. She clenched her fists so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Obviously, she was very nervous. She had seen Xiao Ku and Xiao Chong's miserable end clearly. She did not have any confidence in the following battles. At this moment, the second elder continued to draw lots. The first elder announced the results of the draw loudly: the final battle, Xiao Chen against Xiao Shui. Xiao Ling is lucky to have a bye and will be the second place of this holy fire festival. As his voice fell, the square was filled with thunderous cheers. Thousands of people let out excited shouts. Everyone's gaze was focused on Xiao Chen and Xiao Shui. Xiao Chen stepped onto the stage confidently and looked coldly at Xiao Shui. Xiao Shui lowered her head slightly as she held the hilt of her treasured sword. Her body was brewing quintessence. When the first elder announced the start of the duel, she did not hesitate at all. She drew her sword and thrust it at Xiao Chen. That sword was fast and ruthless. It was as fast as a ray of light, and the sword soared into the sky. Her eyes were blood red, and her body was emitting a dark red killing intent. Her eyes were like 2 sharp swords that could penetrate one's heart. When Xiao Shui thrust out her sword, thousands of Xiao clan members exclaimed in surprise. The elders were also shocked, revealing expressions of disbelief. Exactly how strong is this little girl's killing intent to be able to execute such a sword strike? As expected, a woman's heart is the most poisonous. Xiao Shui has been silently enduring all this time because she was accumulating strength for this sword. Oh no, if Xiao Chen is not on guard, I'm afraid he will be injured by this sword. Just as this thought flashed through everyone's minds, Xiao Chen also made his move. He seemed to have long expected that Xiao Shui would unleash a thunderous attack, and immediately unleashed the sun and moon seal to block in front of him. The seal emitted a dazzling golden and silver light. It turned into the size of a millstone and spun in front of him. Clang! The sword light collided with the sun and moon seal, causing a loud and clear sound to ring out. Xiao Shui's murderous aura filled with extraordinary might was blocked by Xiao Chen in the end. The sword light instantly collapsed as Xiao Shui was forced to retreat a dozen steps. Her complexion turned deathly pale as dense shock gushed out from her eyes. Next, it was time for Xiao Chen to trample on her. Xiao Chen controlled the sun and moon seal, continuously releasing sunlight and moonlight. They condensed into thousands of light pillars, light blades, and sword lights, shooting at Xiao Shui like a rain of arrows. Xiao Shui was beaten back repeatedly, exhausted from defending and fleeing. She clenched her teeth tightly and persisted without making a sound, unwilling to open her mouth and admit defeat. As time passed, her quintessence was greatly depleted, and her physical strength gradually weakened. Bloody wounds also appeared all over her body. This continued until, after about 7 minutes, Xiao Chen attacked continuously for more than 50 moves. Xiao Shui's entire body was covered with hundreds of wounds. There was not a single part of her body that was intact. Dark red blood soaked her entire body, splattering on the arena and dyeing the ground dark red. She finally could not hold on any longer. After exhausting all her strength, she collapsed on the arena and shouted in a hoarse voice that she admitted defeat. The moment she admitted defeat, the thousands of Shao clan members in the plaza were all in an uproar, shouting themselves hoarse. He won. Xiao Chen really won. Xiao Chen is indeed the #1 genius of our Shao clan. He deserves this title. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling are indeed the strongest of the younger generation. From today onwards, the two of them can leave the Shao clan and roam the outside world. This is too enviable. In the future, when they roam the continent, they will definitely achieve great feats and become experts that everyone will respect. The plaza was in an uproar. The bonfire burned fiercely, and the sound waves spread out continuously like the tide. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling returned to Ji Tianqing's side and excitedly reported the good news to him, bowing to express their gratitude. The two of them were very clear that if it were not for Ji Tianqing's help, they would not have the glory they had tonight. At this moment, the first elder stretched out his palms, indicating for the crowd to quieten down. Then, he solemnly announced the results. I now announce that in this Holy Fire Festival's assessment, the first place is Xiao Chen, the second place is Xiao Ling the two of them will receive the most generous rewards and the right to leave the Shao clan. Xiao Shui, who was in the crowd, unwillingly glanced at the stage. Then, she turned around and squeezed into the crowd, quickly leaving the plaza. Xiao Ko was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He clenched his fists so tightly that creaking sounds could be heard. He stared at Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling with resentment. He gnashed his teeth and cursed, bastards. Why is it like this? Why are they the ones who won? I can't accept this. Where did they get their treasures from? Xiao Chong, who was in the crowd not far away, finally woke up. When he knew the results of the assessment, he was so angry that he almost fainted. He opened his mouth and vomited another mouthful of blood. However, he quickly calmed down and muttered with resentment, Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling so what if you can leave the Shao clan? The southern desolate swamp is so dangerous. I curse you to die in the southern desolate swamp. And Xiao Tianqing, you are about to lose your reputation. Do you think that I am already in a hopeless situation? Just wait for my counterattack. At the same time, a guard captain wearing armor suddenly appeared in the plaza. This person's face was as gloomy as ice. His eyes were as anxious as fire. He quickly passed through the crowd and flew to the stage. He anxiously walked to the first elder's side and bowed to the first elder. Then, he transmitted a message to the first elder. The first elder originally had a smile on his face and was encouraging the Shao clan's disciples to work hard in the future. Suddenly, when he heard the guard captain's message, his expression changed drastically. His body stiffened as he stood rooted to the ground. He involuntarily asked the guard captain, "Is this true?" The guard captain anxiously nodded and said, "First elder, this is definitely true. Quickly go and take a look." The first elder's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. His eyes surged with a cold light as he shouted angrily, "This is impossible. The Heaven Ascension scripture has always been in my secret chamber." Chapter 1185. The great elder was so agitated that he roared in front of the crowd. The bustling square quieted down in an instant. Everyone was stunned as they looked at the great elder in disbelief. The other 7 elders were also dumbfounded. They looked at the great elder in bewilderment and couldn't help but ask questions. What's going on? Has the ancestral divine skill been stolen? How is this possible? The soaring white sun scripture has always been in the great elder's care. It has never been stolen for hundreds of years. This is too serious. We must investigate thoroughly. If any of our disciples dared to steal it, I'll be the first to punish them. That's right. No matter which branch this person belongs to, no matter what his background or reason is, we must not let him off. All the elders were filled with righteous indignation and wanted to send people to investigate. They swore to punish the person who stole the divine skill. The thousands of Shao clan members in the square were also filled with doubt and shock. They found it unbelievable and started to discuss among themselves. The great elder quickly suppressed his anger and said coldly, "All of you wait here. I'll go and check on the situation now." After saying that, he brought the captain of the guards and flew across the night sky at lightning speed. They rushed back to their residence. After the first elder left, the 7 elders on the stage gathered together to discuss countermeasures. The thousands of people in the square were discussing even more intensely. They exclaimed and cursed angrily from time to time. Everyone knew that this matter was too serious. Once it was confirmed that the ancestral divine skill had been stolen, the Shao clan would be in turmoil. Even if they had to dig 3 feet into the ground, the Shao clan would find the person who stole the divine skill and punish him. In the crowd, Shao Chong and Shao Ku were quietly treating their injuries. However, their eyes kept glancing at Ji Tianqing from afar. Both of their eyes were filled with a mocking sneer. Compared to the show that was about to come, the humiliation and failure they had suffered before were nothing. Although they didn't show it on their faces, they were sneering in their hearts. They couldn't wait to see Ji Tianqing being punished. Unknowingly, 15 minutes had passed. The great elder brought the captain of the guards back to the square with an ashen face. The noisy square immediately quieted down. Everyone turned to look at the great elder. The grand elder's body was shrouded in a layer of cold air and killing intent. With a cold voice, he said, "I've just investigated. The soaring sun scripture that has been kept in the secret chamber has indeed been stolen by someone. The soaring white sun scripture is a soul-grade cultivation technique created by our old ancestor. It is also the divine cultivation technique and capital of our Shao clan. But now, someone had actually stolen the divine technique passed down from their ancestors. Such a disgraceful act of deceiving one's master and destroying one's ancestors was truly shocking, and it had never appeared in the past few hundred years. There is no need for me to explain the seriousness of the matter. Everyone should understand." The dignified voice of the first elder spread throughout the entire square. His tone was extremely low, icy cold, and contained piercingly cold killing intent. Everyone felt a deep chill. A deep sense of reverence rose in their hearts as they looked at the great elder with a solemn expression. The great elder's gaze swept across the square like lightning. With a deep voice, he said, "It happened yesterday or today. The traitor who stole the divine technique passed down from our ancestors might be in the square right now. I will now give you a chance to repent and start anew. If you take the initiative to confess, I will be lenient and spare your life. If you don't cherish this chance and refuse to confess, I will sentence you to death when I find out the truth." The mighty sound waves spread out and reverberated fiercely in the night sky. The dull sound caused the entire mountain peak to tremble. The great elder's majestic aura caused everyone's body to tremble. A deep sense of reverence and fear rose in their hearts. For a moment, countless people lowered their heads. Their hearts were on tenterhooks, and they did not even dare to whisper. Only Shao Chong, Shao Ku, and Shao Zhan sneered even more coldly in their eyes. The more furious the great elder was, the more complacent they felt. Everyone in the square was silent. No one uttered a word. Ji Tianqing also stood indifferently in the crowd, waiting for the development of the matter. Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, and the rest secretly saw his reaction and sneered even more complacently in their hearts. Humph. This brat is still in the dark. He doesn't know anything. Little bastard, I really want to see how you react later. Will you be so scared that you cry on the spot? Ignorant brat, you probably don't know that you are in big trouble, right? The great elder waited for a moment. When he saw that no one in the square stood up to confess, he sneered. He said with a murderous look, "Good. Damn traitor, since you don't want to cherish this chance, don't blame me for being ruthless. I have placed a seal on the treasure box that contains the soaring white sun scripture, and it also contains my soul aura. I will find the treasure box later and find out the truth. At that time, you will be dead without a doubt. Now, everyone can report and expose each other. In these 2 days, anyone who has entered my house and whose whereabouts are strange can be exposed. As long as the identity of the traitor is confirmed, the corresponding informant will be rewarded with 100,000 spirit stones and a soul-level treasure." When the great elder's voice fell, the thousands of people in the square suddenly became excited. Almost everyone was shocked. Their expressions and eyes were full of disbelief and surprise. 100,000 spirit stones and a soul-level treasure. This is too exaggerated. This is simply a trump card. Such a generous reward is enough to make people lose their minds. The great elder's trick is really awesome. The traitor who stole the ancestral divine art is doomed. Report. Great elder, I want to expose the traitor. I want to report, too. Almost a moment later, more than 10 people of the Shao clan rushed out of the crowd and came to the arena to report to the great elder. The great elder looked at the crowd with majestic eyes and shouted in a deep voice, "You can report and expose, but if you maliciously frame someone, I will not spare you." More than half of the agitated people of the Shao clan calmed down immediately. They were so scared that they shrank their necks and hurriedly retreated into the crowd. There were only a few people left who were overwhelmed by the generous rewards. They shouted excitedly, "Great elder!" But face from the 8th branch, "Oh, no, Xiao Erzwang sneaked into Mount Chongqing last night. I suspect that he stole the ancestral divine art. Great elder! Xiao Jinyu from the 4th branch sneaked into the back of the mountain this morning and was very sneaky." The 2 members of the Shao clan who were reported changed their expressions drastically. They were so scared that they jumped out to defend themselves. "Great elder! I am innocent. I, Xiao Ergu, no, I, Xiao Erzwang, would never steal the divine art. I came to Mount Chongqing last night to have a rendezvous with Xiao Chui. Great elder! I was also wrongly accused. This morning, I was discussing life with Xiao Cheng from the 5th branch in the back mountain. The scene was chaotic. The people who reported the matter spoke with conviction and conviction. The people who were reported were scared out of their wits. They did not care about their privacy and dignity. They revealed the truth in public, hoping to wash away the suspicion. When the great elder saw that the crowd was in a mess, he was so angry that his face turned pale. He scolded the members of the Shao clan. Those who reported or were exposed were all chased away by the guards. Seeing that the square had quieted down again, no one dared to casually stand out. Just at this time, a burly middle-aged man with a majestic aura stepped into the arena. This man was Xiao Zhan. He walked up to the great elder and saluted with his hands folded. "Great elder, I know a person who is very likely to have stolen the ancestral divine art. This person was brought back by Xiao Han from the 3rd branch. His name is Jianqing Xiao. He is not a member of the main branch of the Shao clan. He is Xiao Han's nephew." Chapter 1186. As Xiao Zhan spoke, he looked down at Ji Tianqing, who was in the crowd. He even pointed at Ji Tianqing and shouted righteously, "First elder, it's this scoundrel. He has a vile character and is unbridled. Last night, he even sneaked into the evergreen courtyard. As soon as Xiao Zhan said that, countless people from the Xiao clan turned to look at Ji Tianqing. Many Xiao clansmen looked at him with hostility and started whispering to each other. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were stunned. They looked at Xiao Zhan and Ji Tianqing in confusion. They had no idea what was going on. At this moment, Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku also stood out. The two of them rushed out of the crowd and flew to the arena. They pointed at Ji Tianqing with righteous indignation and complained about his crimes in front of everyone. Everyone, look! This is the scum of our Xiao clan. His name is Xiao Tianqing. He thinks that he is Xiao Han's nephew and can do whatever he wants in the clan. Not only is he arrogant, but he is also violent. He even injured a few of our Xiao clan's disciples. That's right. This person is despicable and sinister. He purposely angered and insulted us. He even used tricks to injure us. Due to Xiao Han's identity, we did not dare to violate the Xiao clan's rules. That was why we endured the humiliation until now. Tonight, we will expose this despicable and shameless bastard in front of the entire clan. Great Elder, please uphold justice for us and seek justice for us. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku shouted agitatedly. Their voices reverberated throughout the entire plaza. Instantly, the thousands of people around the square glared at Ji Tianqing with fury in their eyes. They began to discuss and curse him. In everyone's eyes, only the main clan members were Xiao clan's disciples. Those branch family members who were born and grew up outside were not considered Xiao clansmen. They were all outsiders. The Xiao clan was united. They were arrogant and had a sense of superiority in their bones. They were all hostile to the branch family members. In an instant, the crowd was agitated. Countless people were hostile to Ji Tianqing. The people around him also retreated, and the surroundings became empty. Only Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling remained by his side. Both of them were very angry and immediately stepped forward to defend him. Everyone, don't listen to Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku's nonsense. This is framing. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku are despicable people. They are jealous of Brother Tianqing's talent, so they deliberately targeted and humiliated Brother Tianqing. Xiao Zhan. You despicable person, how dare you slander Tianqing? Show me the evidence. The atmosphere became very heavy, and the air was filled with hostility and killing intent. On the stage, the first elder stared at Xiao Zhan with a solemn expression and said in a deep voice, Xiao Zhan. You can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. This young master Tianqing is an honored guest that Xiao Han brought back. How can you slander him as you please? Tonight, if you can't produce evidence, and if young master Tianqing is innocent, I will definitely punish you according to the clan's rules. The great elder's attitude was very solemn, and his tone was very dignified. The other elders also looked at Ji Tianqing with complicated expressions. Without a doubt, these elders knew Ji Tianqing's identity. He was not a member of the Xiao clan, but a genius from the Middle State Imperial Court, a popular person in the Imperial Court. After all, when Xiao Han sent a message back to the Xiao clan to bring Ji Tianqing to meet the Xiao clan's patriarch, it was approved by the elders. However, this secret was only known by the few elders. Xiao Zhan, his son, and the rest of the Xiao clan did not know about this. Xiao Zhan did not take the first elder's words to heart. He even said solemnly, First Elder. I dare to use my head as a guarantee that this man is the thief who stole the divine skill. As for the evidence, it's too simple. As long as you send someone to his residence to search, you will definitely find the ancestral divine skill. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku also nodded and said, That's right. We can also use our lives to guarantee that this bastard stole the divine skill. With that, the thousands of Xiao clan members were even more certain that the thief was Ji Tianqing. The crowd was even more agitated. The gazes and expressions of the elders became more and more complicated. It was to the extent that some people even looked at Xiao Zhan and the other two with eyes filled with deep pity. The first elder took a deep breath and stared deeply at Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku. He said in a low voice, "Are you really so sure? Using your lives as a guarantee?" Xiao Zhan, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan all nodded and said with certainty, "That's right. It's him." First elder, don't hesitate anymore. Quickly search his residence, and the truth will be revealed. First elder. He is the thief. Please give the order to capture him immediately. Don't let him escape. Seeing this, the first elder did not say anything else. His face darkened, and he ordered coldly, "All right. In that case, I will go to his residence now and search personally. Second elder, fourth elder, fifth elder. You all stay here and look after young Master Tianqing, Xiao Zhan, and the rest. I will be back soon." After that, the first elder personally led two other elders to Tingfeng Garden to search Ji Tianqing's residence. The other elders stayed in the arena to look after Xiao Zhan and the other two, as well as Ji Tianqing, who was in the crowd. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan all looked down at Ji Tianqing with a complacent attitude and a sinister sneer on their faces. In their opinion, the truth would be revealed soon. Ji Tianqing was dead for sure. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling guarded Ji Tianqing on both sides. They were filled with anxiety and anger, but there was nothing they could do. The two stared at Ji Tianqing and said worriedly, "Brother Tianqing, why aren't you saying anything? They are slandering you. You have to refute them. Young Master Tianqing, you stay here. I will go and look for Uncle Xiao Han now. Don't worry, we will definitely not allow Xiao Zhan and his son to slander you." Xiao Ling also recovered her wits and nodded repeatedly. "Brother Tianqing, don't worry. I will go and look for the third elder now. They will definitely help you clear your name." From the beginning to the end, Ji Tianqing's expression was indifferent, and he looked completely at ease. Even if he was being criticized and cursed by thousands of Xiao clan members, his expression did not change, remaining calm and collected. Seeing that Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were about to leave, Xiao Chen revealed a confident smile and waved his hand. "There is no need. You all stay here and watch the show. As the saying goes, a straight man does not fear a crooked shadow. I have a clear conscience. What is there to fear? Don't worry, the first elder will get to the bottom of this." Seeing Xiao Chen so confident and calm, Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling immediately felt much more at ease and calmed down. However, Xiao Chen was still not at ease. He had Xiao Ling stay behind to accompany Xiao Chen while he went to inform Xiao Han and the third elder. Unknowingly, 15 minutes passed. Under the anticipation of thousands of people, the first elder finally brought the two elders back to the plaza. Everyone's gazes gathered on the first elder, waiting for the results. Xiao Zhan quickly went forward and asked expectantly, "First elder. I was right, right? You found the stolen ancestral divine technique, right?" Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were also very pleased. They echoed, "First elder, you finally believe us now, right? This brat is a scum, a beast." However, the first elder's expression was very gloomy. He glanced at the three of them coldly and shouted, "Shut up. You maliciously slandered others. How should you be punished?" Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku were immediately stupefied as they stared at the first elder, dumbfounded. "What's going on? First elder? What do you mean? Could it be that you did not find the ancestral divine technique? That's impossible. There must be one. Please check again." Chapter 1187. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were confused. They did not know what was going on. Xiao Zhan's reaction was the most intense. After all, he was the one who had placed the box containing the ancestral divine skill in Ji Tianqing's residence. However, the Grand Elder said expressionlessly, I have searched his residence and did not find the ancestral divine skill." The other two elders also nodded in agreement with the great elder's words. "That's right. We have searched Verdant Pine Yard twice. Xiao Zhan, the Grand Elder's sole imprint is on the box. This cannot be wrong." Xiao Zhan was dumbfounded. His eyes were red as he shouted, "This is impossible. The treasure box must be in his residence. Even if it is not in his room, it must be in his infinite space ring." Seeing Xiao Zhan's reaction, the Grand Elder seemed to have understood something. A cold light flashed in his eyes. "Enough. Xiao Zhan, shut the hell up. The three of you maliciously framed others. According to the rules, you will be demoted to servant for 3 years. This matter involves the ancestral divine skill. Your crimes are even more severe. I will demote you to servant for 10 years. When the great elder announced this order, the thousands of Shao clan members in the square broke out into loud discussions and gasps of surprise. "Oh my God! Isn't this punishment too severe? Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku are the elites and geniuses of our clan. They have high statuses. How can they be demoted to servant? Even if there is a mistake, this is just a misunderstanding. Why is the punishment so severe? 10 years. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku also showed expressions of anger. They unwillingly shouted, "No. I don't believe this is true. Grand Elder, please search again. I will bring you there personally." Originally, the three of them had used their lives as a guarantee that Ji Tianqing had stolen the ancestral divine skill. However, the Grand Elder had searched Verdant Pine Yard carefully and did not find the treasure box or the ancestral divine skill. He did not want to anger Ji Tianqing. After all, he had offended the genius of the Emperor Palace for no reason. Of course, he would punish the three of them severely. However, he could not bear to kill the three of them. The three of them were the elites of the Shao clan. If they were killed, the loss would be too great. Therefore, the first elder chose a compromise and sentenced the three of them to 10 years of odd jobs. However, the first elder didn't expect that before Ji Tianqing could say anything, Xiao Zhan and the other two wouldn't give up and would continue to pester him. The first elder was so angry that he almost vomited blood. In his heart, he cursed these 3 idiots for not knowing what was good for them. "Enough. Are you going to disobey my orders?" The great elder roared furiously. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku were all stunned. The 3 of them were shocked to the point their faces turned pale. They obediently shut their mouths and didn't dare to criticize or resist. Although they didn't know exactly what had happened, they still didn't know. However, they knew that they had already been defeated, utterly defeated. The only thing they could do now was to admit defeat and accept the great elder's punishment. If this continued, any intelligent person would be able to tell that something was amiss. Xiao Zhan had no choice but to calm down. He forcefully suppressed his anger and said word by word, "This junior will obey the great elder's orders." The first elder heaved a sigh of relief and said expressionlessly, "Second elder, you are the elder in charge of the Hall of Law. This order will be carried out by you. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku will be stripped of their status and treatment. They will be reduced to odd jobs for 10 years. Take the 3 of them away." The second elder cupped his hands to show that he had obeyed and was about to bring the 3 of them away from the stage. Everyone thought that this matter was over. Even Xiao Ling heaved a sigh of relief. She was happy and gratified for Ji Tianqing. However, no one would have thought that Ji Tianqing, who had been silent all this while, would step out of the crowd at this time. "Hold on!" he shouted in a dignified tone. His figure flashed and flew onto the stage. Swoosh! He stood beside the first elder. His entire body emitted a terrifying pressure that invisibly shrouded the entire place. Instantly, the few elders who were closer to him felt the immense pressure and couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku were even more suppressed by the invisible pressure. They couldn't even lift their heads. Ji Tianqing displayed the domineering aura of a transcendent expert and the confidence of a peerless genius. He was as dazzling as the sun, and everyone could only look up to him. He stared sharply at the First Elder and said in a deep voice, "First Elder. From the beginning to the end, no matter how Xiao Zhan, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan slandered and insulted me, I didn't refute a single word. I thought that as the First Elder of the Xiao clan, you would handle this matter impartially and give everyone a satisfactory explanation. I didn't expect that you would disappoint me." As soon as he said that, the thousands of Xiao clan members in the square widened their eyes in disbelief. They looked at Ji Tianqing as though they were looking at a lunatic. Cries of surprise rose and fell from the crowd. Gosh! Is this kid crazy? How dare he question the First Elder? What is this guy trying to do? Xiao Zhan and the rest have already been punished by the First Elder. Is this kid going to add insult to injury? This guy's aura is too strong. It's even stronger than the First Elder's aura. Where did he come from? No matter how strong he is still a member of the Xiao clan. How dare he be so arrogant? What right does he have to question the First Elder's authority? The First Elder didn't dare to look Ji Tianqing in the eye. He lowered his head slightly and hesitated for a moment before asking, "Since you feel that my punishment is unfair, what do you want?" Ji Tianqing was expressionless and said coldly, "It's not what I want. I just want justice. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan slandered me. They even used their lives as a guarantee. Since they want to die so badly, they have to die. This is because the traitors who stole the Xiao clan's ancestral divine technique are Xiao Zhan and his son. Xiao Ku and his father are accomplices." Hearing this, everyone was stunned. They widened their eyes in horror and looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief. Everyone could see that Ji Tianqing wanted to kill Xiao Zhan, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan. He had to kill the three of them. The First Elder frowned and said in a low voice, "Young Master Tianqing, I understand your feelings, but you can't slander them like this. There's no meaning to it." "Slander? Ha ha ha." Ji Tianqing sneered and said in a cold voice, "Then I'll ask the First Elder to search the residence of Xiao Zhan and his son. If you find the ancestral divine technique, please kill them in front of everyone." This. The First Elder hesitated and glanced at Xiao Zhan and the rest. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan were all confused. They didn't know what was going on. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were even smiling coldly, as if they didn't care at all. Seeing this, the First Elder knew that the three of them couldn't have stolen the divine technique. Chapter 1188. The First Elder led the other two elders into the night sky and rushed to the residence of Xiao Zhan and his son. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku all sneered at Ji Tianqing and didn't forget to mock him. "Kid, are you confused by anger? He, so what if you're angry? So what if you deliberately slandered us? We're magnanimous and have a clear conscience. Tianqing, you slandered us in public. You won't be able to escape punishment later." Ji Tianqing looked at Xiao Zhan, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan expressionlessly. He revealed a pitiful look and said in a mocking tone, "You're going to die tonight. Do you know how you're going to die? You're going to die because of your stupidity." Xiao Zhan and the other two were instantly enraged and trembling with anger. "You, kid, you're too arrogant." Ji Tianqing couldn't be bothered with them. He lowered his eyes and waited calmly. Below the arena, Xiao Linger secretly clenched her small fists and looked at Ji Tianqing with eyes full of admiration. She muttered silently, "Brother Tianqing, you're too strong. Your aura actually suppressed the First Elder. No matter what you do, I'll always believe in you and support you." Not long after, the First Elder led the other two elders and flew back to the square as fast as lightning. Swoosh! 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 When the three of them landed on the arena, Xiao Zhan and his son couldn't wait to ask, First Elder, you've already searched, right? How is it? Can you prove that we were slandered? Third Elder, Xiao Tianqing slandered us in public. His crime is unforgivable. You have to deal with it impartially. However, as soon as the father and son finished speaking, they were greeted by 3 pairs of eyes that were as sharp as swords. The first elder and the other 2 elders all looked at them with cold and murderous gazes. Shut up! Audacious traitor, you're about to die and you still don't know how to repent. Xiao Zhan. I really didn't expect you to do such a thing. The angry shouts of the 3 elders resounded throughout the entire square. Everyone was stunned, revealing a puzzled and horrified expression. Xiao Zhan and his son, as well as Xiao Ku, looked at the great elder in confusion. The first elder could not be bothered to say anything. He expressionlessly took out a treasure box and presented it to everyone. This treasure box was found in Xiao Chang's bedroom. It was hidden in the wall. Fortunately, I left my sole imprint on the treasure box. Otherwise, it would be impossible for ordinary people to find it. Then, the first elder glared at Xiao Zhan and roared, Xiao Zhan, the evidence is here. What else do you have to say? Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku were dumbfounded again. They stared at the treasure box as if they had seen a ghost. This is impossible. How could this treasure box be in my room? We didn't do it. We would never steal the ancestral divine arts. How could this be? What the hell? Why is this thing in Xiao Chang's room? The 3 of them were filled with fear. Their minds were in a mess, and they roared ferociously. However, the evidence was in front of everyone. Even if Xiao Zhan and his son jumped into the river, they would not be able to clear their names. Thousands of Xiao clan members exclaimed and whispered to each other. They pointed at Xiao Zhan and his son and scolded them with disdain. Ji Tianqing didn't waste any more time. He glared at the first elder and shouted, First Elder, it's time for you to fulfill your promise and enforce the family rules. These 3 stole the ancestral divine arts of the Xiao clan. They should be sentenced to death in front of everyone. This. The first elder hesitated. He softened his tone and said to Ji Tianqing, Young Master Tianqing, I'm afraid this is not appropriate. Please forgive us. The other elders also began to plead for leniency. Young Master Tianqing, you are a magnanimous person. Please don't be calculative with these 3 evil creatures. Young Master Tianqing, this is a misunderstanding. Please calm down and spare their lowly lives. Xiao Zhan and his son, Xiao Ku, and Xiao Zhan were dumbfounded when they saw that the elders were begging for mercy in front of Ji Tianqing. The 3 of them stared at Ji Tianqing with their mouths agape. They felt like their brains weren't enough to comprehend what was going on. The thousands of Xiao clan members in the square were also baffled. They were shocked and confused, and they started discussing again. What's going on? Why are the elders begging for mercy in front of that kid? It seems like the elders are in awe of that kid. Isn't this too ridiculous? That kid is the junior of the elders. Xiao Ling was also puzzled. She was even more confused. She muttered softly, Big Brother Tianqing, who exactly are you? Why is your identity so mysterious? In the ring, Ji Tianqing glanced at the first elder coldly. He sneered and said, All right, since the first elder can't bear to do it, I'll punish them on your behalf. As he spoke, a golden light flashed in his right palm. It condensed into a golden sword. He walked to Xiao Zhan and kicked him to the ground. He said loudly, Traitor Xiao Zhan, you stole our ancestral martial art. You deserve to be beheaded. When he said the word, beheaded, he held the golden sword in his right hand and slashed down fiercely. Puff! Xiao Zhan's neck was cut off. His head rolled on the ground. Dark red blood spurted out from his neck. A cultivator at level 8 of Sky Origin stage was beheaded by Ji Tianqing with only one sword strike. Xiao Zhan didn't even have the chance to dodge. He didn't even have the right to resist. Everyone was dumbfounded. Everyone was shocked. The square was in dead silence. Thousands of people were terrified. They opened their mouths and felt a chill down their spines. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were scared out of their wits. They stood there in a daze, trembling. They didn't expect Ji Tianqing to be so arrogant. He dared to kill Xiao Zhan in front of everyone. At this moment, Ji Tianqing kicked Xiao Ku to the ground again. He raised his sword and was about to slash down. The Grand Elder was the first to react. He shouted, "Stop it!" The other elders also came to their senses. They quickly stood in front of Ji Tianqing and pulled Xiao Ku and Xiao Chong apart. "Master Tianqing, please calm down. Don't be rash. This is our Xiao clan's business. Please let us handle it. Master Tianqing, don't go too far. We Xiao clan have integrity. They may have offended you, but they don't deserve to die." The elders surrounded Ji Tianqing and tried to persuade him. Of course, there were also a few hot-tempered elders who scolded him. They were so angry that their faces turned green. Ji Tianqing glanced at the elders and sneered, "The three of them slandered me with their lives. Don't they deserve to die? Get out of my way. Whoever dares to stop me will die." Chapter 1189. Ji Tianqing alone had forced the 8 elders to retreat with just one sentence. Such a domineering and imposing aura had stunned the thousands of Xiao clan members. Their hearts were beating wildly from the shock. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were even more shocked and shocked. Their minds had collapsed, and they lay limp on the arena. Both of them were trembling like sifting chaff. They were so frightened that they broke out in cold sweat. They couldn't even speak a complete sentence. Ji Tianqing didn't care about the 8 elders, nor did he care about the discussions of the thousands of Xiao clan members. Swoosh! His figure flashed past the crowd and appeared in front of Xiao Chong. He kept his sword. Puff! With a dull sound, Xiao Chong's head was chopped off and rolled on the arena. He died with his eyes wide open. A gush of hot blood splattered on Xiao Ku's face. He was scared out of his wits. "Ah! Don't kill me. I don't want to die." Xiao Chong's father stole his ancestral divine skill and purposely placed it in your room to frame you. You bastard! How can you be so cruel? I won't let you off even if I become a ghost. Xiao Ku ran like a madman. His hair was disheveled as he roared hysterically. He finally could not withstand the immense fear and spoke the truth in front of everyone. Of course, he was scared out of his wits. His words were incoherent and he had completely lost control of himself. Ji Tianqing did not chase after him. He extended his right hand and threw the golden sword. Thud! The sword cut through the night sky and pierced through Xiao Ku's back. It pierced through his back and heart. The tip of the sword could be seen from his chest. Xiao Ku's roaring stopped abruptly. His body took 2 steps forward and fell heavily on the arena. He twitched a few times on the ground before he finally breathed his last. He died on the spot. The golden sword that was stabbed into his body slowly dissipated. There was a deathly silence in the square. Everyone stared at Xiao Ku's corpse. Their faces were filled with fear, and their backs were drenched in cold sweat. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed that Tianqing would be so arrogant and did not put the Xiao clan in his eyes at all. He actually dared to kill Xiao Zhan, Xiao Chong, and Xiao Ku in front of everyone in the square. This was simply shocking and audacious. In the eyes of the Xiao clan's members, no matter how big of a mistake Xiao Zhan and the other 2 had made, they should be dealt with by the Xiao clan's elders. Xiao Tianqing was only a branch family disciple, and he had absolutely no right to interfere with the family affairs of the Xiao clan. Everyone was silent for a moment, and then they gradually recovered from their shock. Instantly, waves of discussions erupted, and the crowd was excited. Too arrogant. Xiao Tianxing, this bastard, is simply treacherous. No matter how big of a mistake Xiao Zhan and the other two made, it's not up to a branch family disciple to punish them. Tianxing Xiao has no respect for his elders. He actually dared to kill a member of our Xiao clan in front of the statue of our old ancestor. This is an act of disobedience to the old ancestor. Elders, please take him down and deal with him according to the family rules. You must punish him severely. Not only were the members of the Xiao clan filled with righteous indignation, but the elders were also glaring at Ji Tianxing with ashen faces as they roared furiously. Young Master Tianxing, you have gone too far. You are too arrogant. No matter how impressive you are in the central region, it has nothing to do with the Xiao clan. You have no right to interfere with the family affairs of the Xiao clan. You killed our members in front of all of us. You are trampling on the faces of the 8 elders and trampling on the dignity of the Xiao clan. We will not let this matter rest. Even if we have to go to the imperial court, we will demand an explanation. Ji Tianxing looked at the elders indifferently and his lips curled into a disdainful sneer. He wasn't a bloodthirsty person, but Xiao Zhan and the other two were courting death. They had to die. The elders of the Xiao clan knew about his background, but they didn't know how high his position was. The elders had never left the Xiao clan and they didn't know about the situation in the outside world. They couldn't imagine how high Ji Tianxing's position was. Of course, they didn't know Ji Tianxing's character either. Just as the elders were filled with anger and surrounded Ji Tianxing, wanting to demand an explanation from him, Ji Tianxing suddenly spoke. A low voice full of majesty suddenly exploded in the night sky. Whoever dares to lay a hand on Tianxing will be the sinner of the Xiao clan. The voice reverberated, causing pain in everyone's eardrums and their faces to turn pale. Countless people lifted their heads to look at the sky and saw a middle-aged man in a purple robe flying in the air with a cold expression. The middle-aged man was tall and had a dignified appearance. He had a mustache on his chin and he exuded a dignified and authoritative aura. Most of the thousands of Xiao clan members didn't recognize him. However, the expressions of the 8 elders changed, and their eyes became serious. Xiao Han. Why is he here? Where did he go previously? What does he mean by that? The elders frowned and whispered to each other. In the next moment, Xiao Han flew down from the night sky and landed on the arena. He stood beside Ji Tianxing. He stared coldly at the elders and shouted, "Elders, don't blame me for not reminding you. Whoever dares to lay a hand on Tianxing will be the sinner of the Xiao clan. If anyone dares to disrespect Tianxing again, I won't be courteous to him." Once these words were spoken, the expressions of the elders turned extremely ugly. The thousands of Xiao clan members in the square started to discuss among themselves in shock. Who is this guy? Why is he so arrogant? How dare he scold the elders? He's Xiao Han. The pride of the Xiao clan. Xiao Han. Could he be the Donglin divine general who left the Xiao clan to guard the East Sea? Gosh! He's Donglin divine general Xiao Han. No wonder he dares to scold the elders. Tianxing is Xiao Han's nephew. Xiao Han is obviously trying to protect him. I'm afraid the elders can't do anything to him. The 8 elders were silent. They looked at Xiao Han and Ji Tianxing with mixed feelings. They didn't know what to do. Now that things had developed to this stage, the elders didn't dare to act rashly. They could only wait and see. At this moment, another aged and dignified voice resounded in the night sky. Ancestor has arrived. The descendants of the Xiao clan welcome you. This sudden voice immediately caused the entire square to boil. Countless people were in disbelief. Some were shocked, while others were looking at the night sky with joy. Gosh! The ancestor has been alarmed. Tianxing must be too arrogant. He must have alarmed the ancestor. The ancestor hasn't appeared for hundreds of years. I didn't expect him to still be alive. He actually appeared personally. Wow, I've lived for more than 100 years, but I've never seen the ancestor in person. Our Shao clan's ancestor has appeared. Tianqing is dead for sure. Even Shao Han can't protect him. Thousands of people from the Shao clan were discussing excitedly. In the next moment, a ball of dazzling sacred golden light flew from the night sky and landed on the arena in the middle of the square. That ball of sacred golden light enveloped two elders. One of them was wearing a purple robe and had white hair. He was the third elder. The other elder in a black robe was skinny. His white hair reached his waist, and he exuded a mysterious and vast aura. He was the Shao clan's ancestor, Shao Wentian. When Shao Wentian arrived on the stage with the third elder, Shao Wentian was stunned. The thousands of Shao clan members in the square all knelt on the ground and paid their respects. Regardless of whether they were ordinary clansmen, the 8 elders, or divine general Shao Han, they all knelt on the ground and paid their respects. After all, they were all disciples of the Shao clan. They were all descendants of the Shao clan's ancestor. Only one person stood proudly on the arena and didn't kneel down. Chapter 1190. The appearance of the Shao clan's patriarch made all the members of the Shao clan extremely excited. Everyone knew that the Shao clan's patriarch had not been involved in worldly affairs for hundreds of years. Only a few of the members of the Shao clan had seen the true face of the Shao clan's patriarch. To most of the members of the Shao clan, being able to see the patriarch with their own eyes was the greatest wish and surprise of their lives. In an instant, thousands of people knelt on the ground respectfully and bowed their heads deeply. They welcomed the arrival of the Shao clan's patriarch with the most sincere attitude. Even the honorable divine general Shao Han, who had limitless glory in the middle state, was respectful and humble to the Shao clan's patriarch. As such, Ji Tianqing, who was standing proudly on the arena, became the most conspicuous and eye-catching one. Many people glared at him when they saw this scene. They cursed him in their hearts for not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. He didn't even kneel before the great ancestor. Many members of the Shao clan cursed him in their hearts, hoping that he would be severely punished by the patriarch. However, no one expected the Shao clan's patriarch to not be angry at all when he landed on the arena. Moreover, he even walked to Ji Tianqing and stood in front of Ji Tianqing. He nodded slightly at Ji Tianqing as a sign of respect. Seeing this scene, all the members of the Shao clan were dumbfounded. They were dumbfounded. No one could believe that the honorable Shao clan's patriarch, who was as powerful as an immortal, would nod at Ji Tianqing as a sign of respect. This was simply too shocking. Countless members of the Shao clan would rather believe that the sun rose from the west than to believe this scene. It was so much so that many people had an absurd thought in their minds. Is this mysterious black-robed old man really our Shao clan's patriarch? Could it be that he's an impostor? This thought flashed across everyone's minds and was quickly thrown to the back of their minds. After all, the black-robed old man's white hair reached his waist. His eyes were as deep as the stars, and he exuded a mysterious and vast aura that was connected to heaven and earth. This was a unique aura that only an extraordinary expert, an elder who had experienced the vicissitudes of life, possessed. The Shao clan's patriarch finally spoke. He looked around and the first sentence that came out of his mouth stunned everyone in the Shao clan. I believe that at this moment, most people are wondering why this guy named Tianqing doesn't kneel down and greet him. These words clearly resonated with the hearts of thousands of people. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the Shao clan's patriarch. Their eyes were filled with anticipation as they desperately wanted to know the answer. A playful smile appeared on the wrinkled old face of the Shao clan's patriarch as he calmly announced the answer. Because his surname isn't Shao at all. Our Shao clan is not qualified to have such a monstrous genius. The voice of the Shao clan's patriarch was not loud, but it clearly spread out within a radius of 5 kilometers, allowing everyone to hear it clearly. Suddenly, the thousands of people in the square all showed an expression of sudden realization, exclaiming and discussing. I see. This fellow isn't from our Shao clan. That's why he didn't greet the old ancestor. No wonder this guy is so arrogant. He actually dared to kill Shao Zhan, his son, and Shao Ku in front of our entire tribe. That's not right. This fellow isn't from our Shao clan. What right does he have to enter our Shao clan? This has broken the rules set by the old ancestor. Xiao Ling-er's expression changed as well. Her clear eyes widened, revealing a look of as expected. Just as I expected, Brother Tianqing isn't from our Shao clan. No wonder he's so monstrous. When has our Shao clan ever produced such an outstanding genius? When thousands of Shao clan members were discussing, the Shao clan's patriarch pointed at Ji Tianqing and said in a deep voice, he's the #1 genius of the human race. He's also the #1 genius of the monarch mansion. He's the pride of the human race. He's also my friend. I haven't cared about worldly affairs for hundreds of years. I've been in seclusion, comprehending the mysteries of heaven, just to wait for his arrival. After hearing this news in secret, everyone in the Shao clan was inexplicably shocked as they exclaimed. Even the elders were shocked to the point that they were dumbstruck. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Gosh! This fellow is actually friends with our old ancestor. How is this possible? Our old ancestor has lived for thousands of years. This fellow is at most 20 years old, right? Are you guys dumb? Didn't you hear what the old ancestor said? He's been waiting for this fellow for hundreds of years. This is too inconceivable. It's just like a fairy tale. No wonder Shao Han personally led this fellow into the Shao clan. No wonder this fellow is so arrogant and doesn't take the elders seriously. Oh my gosh! The #1 genius of the human race and the old ancestor's friend. What kind of freak is this fellow? I just want to know what's this fellow's name. Ji Tianqing ignored the thousands of Shao clan members and looked at the Shao clan's patriarch calmly. He asked with a playful smile, Senior, I just killed 3 disciples of the Shao clan in front of everyone. The 3 of them are your descendants. Aren't you afraid that your descendants will have an opinion if you say that I'm your friend? As he spoke, he glanced at the corpses on the arena. The corpses of Shao Zhan, Shao Chong, and Shao Ku were already cold, but they were still lying on the arena. The Shao clan's patriarch didn't even look at the corpses. He looked at Ji Tianqing calmly and said, the huge Shao clan has existed for thousands of years and has many descendants. I have too many descendants. If there aren't 10,000 of them, there are at least 8,000 of them. There are some geniuses and elites among my descendants. Some are righteous and some are kind and benevolent. However, there are too many people, and it's inevitable that there will be some inferior scum. If they're dead, they're dead. People have to bear the corresponding consequences for their mistakes. The Shao clan's patriarch's tone was very calm. His words revealed a sense of vicissitudes of life. At the same time, his words also put an end to this matter. The 9 elders and thousands of Shao clan members understood that the Shao clan's patriarch didn't care about the deaths of Shao Zhan and the other 2. After all, the patriarch had tens of thousands of descendants. What kind of blood ties could there be? Shao Zhan and the other 2 used a despicable scheme to murder Ji Tianqing. They deserved to die. All in all, Shao Zhan, his son, and Shao Ku died for nothing. Not only would they not receive the sympathy of the crowd, but they would also be cursed. The thousands of Shao clan members present gradually woke up from their shock. Everyone whispered to each other for a while, and then they basically understood the matter. Shao Zhan and the other 2 provoked someone they couldn't afford to offend. As for Ji Tianqing's background and why he was friends with the Shao clan's patriarch, it became the biggest suspense and mystery. Everyone racked their brains to guess and reason, but they couldn't think of a reason. The Shao clan's patriarch didn't say much. He instructed the first elder and bid farewell to Ji Tianqing before turning to leave. This matter came to an end for the time being. Chapter 1191. The figure of the Shao clan's patriarch disappeared into the night sky and drifted away. A long time after he left, the invisible pressure that lingered in the square gradually dissipated. Thousands of Shao clan members stood up one after another and whispered to each other. The topic of everyone's discussion revolved around Ji Tianqing and the Shao clan's patriarch. But even if they racked their brains, they could not figure out how a 20-year-old peerless genius could be friends with the Shao clan's patriarch, who had lived for thousands of years. Recalling what had happened previously, the Shao clan members still had lingering fear in their hearts. They looked at Ji Tianqing with eyes full of reverence. At this moment, no one dared to criticize Ji Tianqing anymore. Everyone was filled with curiosity and reverence towards him, sizing him up without blinking. The other elders also calmed down and gathered around the third elder, asking about his injuries and the condition of his body. The third elder did not hide anything and happily told everyone that it was Tianqing who had healed his injuries and allowed him to recover his cultivation. When everyone heard this miraculous news, they immediately exclaimed in disbelief and started discussing. Not long after, the atmosphere in the square eased up. The first elder sent a few guards to drag the corpses of Shao Zhan and the other two down and clean up the blood on the arena. Then, he announced loudly, "Everyone, this year's Holy Fire Festival is not over yet. Leave the rest of the time to the young men and women of our clan. Young men and women who want to receive the approval and blessings of our clan members, please bravely go up to the arena and tell your story and wish in public." After saying that, he led the elders out of the arena. The arena became empty, waiting for the brave young disciples to declare the love in their hearts in front of everyone. However, everyone was still immersed in the shock from before and were still whispering to each other. Those young men and women who were prepared to take this opportunity to confess were only focused on discussing Ji Tianqing and the Shao clan's patriarch. They even forgot to go up to the arena to confess. After a long time, a graceful figure walked through the crowd and went up to the arena. Everyone's gaze was attracted, and they all looked towards that graceful figure. After seeing that graceful, pure and lovely figure, the crowd immediately broke out into a series of discussions. "Oh my God, it's Shao Ling. What is she doing? Is she going to confess to someone? Wow! Our Shao clan's #1 beauty, Shao Ling, who countless young disciples yearn for even in their dreams, actually took the initiative to confess to someone." Without a doubt, the young woman that bravely walked up the ring under the gazes of everyone was precisely Shao Ling. She lowered her head slightly, her cheeks flushed red. She shyly walked to the ring and stood there, not daring to speak. Perhaps because she was too shy, she kept her head down and didn't dare to look at anyone. Her hands even brushed the long hair on her temples. Her subconscious action was only to relieve her embarrassment and shyness, but it made her reveal a trace of a charming beauty amidst her innocence and cuteness. Instantly, countless young men in the square stared at her without blinking. Everyone was filled with anticipation, eager to know what she was going to say and do. Ji Tianqing stood in the crowd and looked at Shao Ling with a calm expression. A faint smile hung on the corner of his mouth. Shao Qin stood beside him and also looked at Shao Ling on the stage. He silently waved his fist and cheered for Shao Ling. He had liked Shao Ling for many years but had never expressed his feelings all along. Shao Ling's attitude towards him was only that of a friend or brother. Although he guessed what Shao Ling was going to say, he felt a little jealous and sour in his heart. However, he also believed that Shao Ling's choice was the right one. He was willing to support and encourage Shao Ling. After all, the love rival by his side was too outstanding. She was as dazzling as the stars in the sky, and people could only look up to her. Thinking of this, Shao Qin tilted his head and looked at Ji Tianqing who was beside him. Finally, when thousands of people were staring at Xiao Ling and the sounds of discussion were getting louder and louder, she finally opened her mouth to speak. She gathered a great deal of courage and bravely raised her head. She looked straight at Ji Tianqing in the crowd and said with a sincere voice, "Brother Tianqing, I don't know if the current me still has the qualifications to call you that. Even now, I still don't know what your real name is, but I have a lot of things to say to you." When her clear, clean, and pleasant voice rang out, the entire square quietened down. Countless people guessed what Xiao Ling was going to say and looked at Ji Tianqing in unison. Ji Tianqing, who was in the crowd, became the focus of the crowd once again. He was as dazzling as the stars in the sky. Even the 9 elders, Xiao Han, and the others were smiling as they looked at Xiao Ling and Xiao Ling. They were secretly discussing with each other via voice transmission. Xiao Ling took a deep breath and continued, "Brother Tianqing, I have always wanted to leave the Xiao clan. I wanted to see a wider world and see the wonders of the world. This has always been my wish, and it is also the motivation that supports me to train hard in the martial way. Thank you for helping me achieve my wish, for fulfilling my dream. If I didn't meet you, my life wouldn't be so wonderful." After she finished speaking, she looked at Ji Tianqing with a sincere gaze and bowed deeply. Ji Tianqing looked at her with a smile and nodded slightly in greeting. Xiao Ling seemed to have received a great encouragement. There were actually traces of tears in her clear eyes. She said emotionally, "Brother Tianqing, before I met you, my life had always been monotonous and dull. It was like a world of black and white. It was only until I met you that my life became colorful. Although we have only known each other for a short period of time, I will always remember your every word, every expression, and every smile in my heart. I know that you will be leaving the Xiao clan soon. You still have very important things to do. You are a world-renowned peerless genius. You are as dazzling as the stars in the sky. Your brilliance makes millions of girls in the world feel ashamed of their inferiority. I am also one of them. However, the Holy Fire Festival is our Xiao clan's grandest celebration. If I don't say the words in my heart tonight, I will regret it for the rest of my life. I don't want to leave behind any regrets. Therefore, I want to say, Brother Tianqing, I like you. No matter how outstanding you are, I will work even harder to catch up with you and get closer to you." Xiao Ling mustered up a great deal of courage before she said the words that were hidden in her heart. This moment was the boldest and bravest moment in her life. When she said these words, her face turned red all the way to her neck. Her heart almost stopped beating. She was so embarrassed that she found it hard to breathe. These sincere and touching words had exhausted all her strength. After she finished speaking, she couldn't help but lower her head. She didn't dare to look at Ji Tianqing's expression. Her heart was filled with apprehension and uneasiness. Her fingers were intertwined as she waited for Ji Tianqing's response. The thousands of Xiao clan members in the square were stunned for a moment before they cheered and discussed noisily. Chapter 1192. The Xiao clansmen in the square had different opinions and were in an uproar. Damn it! Our Xiao clan's #1 beauty was abducted by an outsider just like that. So many young talents in our clan failed to move her, but she took the initiative to confess to this fellow. It's too infuriating. That's right. Our clan's young talents pursued her for many years, but she remained unmoved. I didn't expect her to fall in love with this fellow at first sight after knowing him for only a few days. Everyone, stop sighing. Look at that young Master Tianqing. How suave and handsome is he? What is his strength and identity? Are our Xiao clan's young disciples worthy of Ling? It has to be a peerless genius like young Master Tianqing. That's right. Young Master Tianqing is the #1 genius in the continent and is friends with our Xiao clan's patriarch. Many beauties admire such a lofty figure. Most of the young disciples were pounding their chests and stamping their feet. They were incomparably jealous and envious of Ji Tianqing. However, some of the older elders of the Shao clan were in favor of this matter and were optimistic about it. Right when everyone was discussing animatedly and Xiao Linger was waiting with a heart full of anxiety, Ji Tianqing finally spoke. With a trace of a gentle smile on his face, he looked at Xiao Ling with a sincere gaze and said, "Miss Ling, although I've only known you for a few days, I can see and feel that you're a very special girl. You're pure and kind, smart and cute. You're also very straightforward. You're a good lady who dares to love and hate. It's a pity that I'm destined to let you down because I already have a wife. She's the person I've decided to spend the rest of my life with. I can't and won't let her down. I think it's more suitable for us to be friends." His expression and tone made people feel a strong sense of sincerity. It made people feel as if they were bathed in the spring breeze. However, the content of his words made Xiao Linger cry instantly. Her face turned pale, and her body trembled slightly. The thousands of Shao clan members in the square also changed their expressions as they exclaimed and discussed. "Oh my God! This fellow actually rejected Xiao Linger. Xiao Linger is the #1 beauty in our Shao clan. How is she not worthy of him? Ah! We bitterly pursued Xiao Linger for many years, but she didn't even spare us a glance. She confessed to young Master Tianqing, but was heartlessly rejected. The heavens are blind. Sigh. What a pity. The two of them are so compatible. It's a pity that young Master Tianqing already has a wife. What an ill-fated relationship. A peerless genius like young Master Tianqing should have many female confidants. He actually didn't accept Xiao Linger and is loyal to his wife. Isn't his wife too blessed? Even an ordinary rich family would have 3 wives and 4 concubines. Young Master Tianqing, just take Xiao Linger in. Even if she's a concubine, it's fine." Many of the Shao clansmen felt that it was a pity. Many of the young disciples heaved a sigh of relief. They were happy to see this. In their opinion, since Ji Tianqing had rejected Xiao Linger, they still had a chance to pursue Xiao Linger. Xiao Linger, who was in the arena, stared blankly at Ji Tianqing. Her eyes were filled with disappointment, and they were filled with sparkling tears that kept sliding down her cheeks. However, she still maintained her smile and nodded at Ji Tianqing. Her voice was a little choked as she said, "Big brother Tianqing, I really envy your wife for being able to obtain your exclusive love and care. Thank you for giving me such a beautiful memory and changing my fate. I wish you and your wife a happy and loving life forever. If Big Brother Tianqing doesn't mind, let's be good friends. Is that okay?" Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded. Xiao Linger was greatly encouraged, and the pain in her heart lessened a lot. She hesitated for a moment and continued to ask, "Big Brother Tianqing, can you tell me what your real name is?" "Ji Tianqing." Ji Tianqing said these 3 words word by word. After saying that, he turned around, stepped over the crowd, and flew into the night sky, drifting far away. Xiao Linger stood on the arena and looked up at his departing figure. She muttered, "Ji Tian. All right. I will remember this name forever. Thank you." After a while, she recovered her senses and quickly wiped the tears off her pretty face. Then, she quickly left the plaza. Only a few thousand Shao clan members remained, still surrounding the plaza, unwilling to leave. They were still discussing. Unknowingly, a night passed. This night was not peaceful. Many things happened. It could be said that there were many twists and turns, ups and downs. Ji Tianqing's name spread throughout the Shao clan. Everyone knew about him. In the Shao clan, regardless of gender or age, everyone was discussing him and his deeds that night. Clearly, he had left an indelible impression on the Shao clan. They would not forget him for the next 100 years. At noon, the 3rd elder led Xiao Linger and Xiao Chen to pay a visit to Xiao Han. These 2 young geniuses had already received the generous rewards from the Shao clan. Next, they would leave the Shao clan with Shao Han and head to the vast and bustling central province to start a new chapter in their lives. After discussing the itinerary and plan, they decided to depart early the next morning. At that time, Shao Han would bring Ji Tianqing, Shao Ling and Shao Qian. The four of them would leave the Shao clan together. At the same time, Ji Tianqing was meditating in his room. A dazzling spiritual light suddenly descended from the sky and flew in front of him at the speed of light. Swoosh! This dazzling white light wrapped around a jade slip. It was the communication jade slip that he had left for Yun Yao. Yao Yao sent me a message. Did something happen? Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows, and a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. He reached out to pick up the communication jade slip and inserted his spiritual energy into it. Immediately, he saw an image. In the image was a secret room with dim light. Yun Yao was wearing a silver-white dress and sitting in the middle of the room. Her appearance was still beautiful, and her aura was even more sacred and noble. She was surrounded by the surging aura of a transcendent expert. There was a hint of a smile in her eyes, and she was a little emotional. She said in a gratified tone, "Tianqing, I have good news to tell you. I have successfully broken through the shackles and reached the soul-tempering realm. The pearl in my mind previously made me change a lot. After I broke through to the soul-tempering realm, I felt the uniqueness of the pearl. Moreover, my spiritual energy is different from ordinary soul-tempering realm experts. Even my spiritual energy Dharma eyes are different." When Ji Tianqing heard this news, he immediately felt gratified and smiled. He thought to himself, "That's great. Yao Yao has finally broken through to the soul-tempering realm. She has the Neptune divine pearl and is the reincarnation of the Yaoguang goddess. Of course, her spiritual energy is different." At this moment, Yun Yao in the image continued, "Tianqing, the situation in the central province is stable now. All the races are fighting against the demon race and are doing their best to resist the invasion of the demon race." Chapter 1193. Ji Tianqing stowed the jade slip away after reading Yun Yao's message. He pondered silently for a while. The situation on the central plain is stable right now. Even if I return, there's nothing for me to do. I can only cultivate in seclusion. Why don't I meet up with Yao Yao and head to the Godfall Cliff and the Eastern Sea's bottomless chasm together to search for the Neptunian divine pearl? After making up his mind, he thought about the geography of the continent and came up with a plan. He picked up the jade slip and used the power of his soul to input information into it. "Yao Yao, I've already finished my business. I don't plan on returning to the central plain either. I have something even more important to do. I need your help with this, so you should leave as soon as possible. We'll meet up at Heavenly Swaying City. I'll be there in half a month at most. I'll be waiting for you in the city. I won't leave until I see you." With that, he poured his magic power into the communication jade slip and released it. Swish! The communication jade reduced to a streak of light and shot into the sky, vanishing very soon. Ji Tianqing stood up, tidied his clothes, and stepped out of the room. He entered Shao Han's room and saw him in the study. Shao Han sat alone in the study as he pondered something. Seeing Ji Tianqing arrive, he hurriedly dismissed his thoughts and greeted Ji Tianqing. He asked, "Tianqing, you've come at the perfect time. I just happen to have something to talk to you about." "What a coincidence. I just happen to have something to talk to you about as well." Ji Tianqing smiled and sat down beside him. Shao Han raised an eyebrow. He smiled, "Oh. What is it? Tell me first." Ji Tianqing did not beat around the bush. He cut straight to the chase. "I've already finished my business in the Shao clan this time, but I have something even more important. As a result, I won't be waiting for you. I'll be leaving soon. I've come to bid farewell to you this time." "Huh?" Shao Han immediately frowned. He asked in surprise, "Tianxing, you're not returning to the central plain with us?" "I was just about to say that we'll set off together tomorrow morning." Pausing for a moment, he looked at Ji Tianxing with a playful gaze. He lowered his voice and said, "Tianxing, are you worried that if you go back with us, you will feel awkward facing Ling, or?" Ji Tianxing shook his head and chuckled, "Divine Commander, what are you thinking? Of course, that's not the reason. I'm not going back to the Central Plains. I'm going to look for an ancient ruin." Only then did Xiao Han reveal a look of understanding. He smiled and nodded, saying, "So that's how it is. All right then, I won't keep you any longer. Let's get down to business. Lord Divine General, then I will take my leave." Ji Tianxing cupped his fists and bowed to him. Xiao Han also stood up and nodded. "Tianxing, I'll send you off." After that, he left Tingfeng Garden with Ji Tianxing and flew toward the exit of the Xiao clan. Not long after, the two of them reached the exit. Xiao Han cast a spell to activate the array, and a dazzling door of white light appeared in the sky. "Tianxing, take care. See you again." Xiao Han cupped his fists and smiled at Ji Tianxing. "See you again." Ji Tianxing cupped his fists and returned the greeting. He turned around and stepped into the door of light, leaving the Xiao clan. Swoosh! In the next moment, he appeared in the sky above Gemini Island. His sleeves fluttered as he flew high into the sky. He stepped on the vast sea of clouds and flew toward the northeast. When the Monarch Mansion Master gave him the mission, he had given him information about the fallen god cliff and the sun and moon furnace. According to the information, the fallen god cliff was located in the mountains in the east of the mainland, between the Central Plains and the Eastern Sea. In that area, there were tens of thousands of towering mountains and peaks. The mountains were stacked on top of each other, rising and falling continuously. Many of the peaks were tall and steep. They stood between the heavens and the earth, and most of them were covered by white clouds and thick fog. There were many demons and giant beasts in the mountains, as well as some mysterious ancient races. Although the fallen god cliff was not as dangerous as the great swamp of the southern wilderness and the returning ruins of the eastern sea, it was still a dangerous forbidden area. Ordinary experts could not enter. The fallen god cliff was in the deepest part of the fallen god cliff. It was very mysterious and hidden. It was said that in ancient times, the fallen god cliff was a hilly area with relatively flat terrain. However, the great war of the gods broke out. Many gods fought in the 9 heavens, causing the sun and moon to dim and the stars to fall. The fierce battle tore through the sky, causing tens of thousands of meteors to fall. Meteors from outer space landed in the fallen god cliff, burning the area. The ground was also blasted with tens of thousands of craters and cracks. From then on, the area became a mountain range with valleys and abysses everywhere. There was even a powerful deity who had fallen in the great battle. The fragments of the god's body and divine artifact fell below a tall mountain like meteors. That was how the name Fallen God Cliff came about. This legend originated from far too long ago, so it was impossible to verify its authenticity even now. However, Ji Tianxing would rather believe it to be true than not. He had to go to the Fallen God Cliff and investigate the matter. This matter was related to the Neptunian divine orb, as well as Yun Yao's life. He obviously had to be careful. Time passed quickly. 5 days passed very quickly. On the morning of the 6th day, Ji Tianxing left the great swamp of the southern wilderness. He continued towards the northeast, heading straight for Heavenly Swaying City. As he traveled, he found some time to check on the little black dragon and Qian Yu's situation. Ever since the little black dragon and Qian Yu had devoured the phoenix sacred heart, they had been refining it in the world within the sword. So many days had passed, but the two of them were still in seclusion. Although they had still failed to refine the phoenix sacred heart, their strength and cultivation were rapidly increasing. Ji Tianqing estimated that they would need around 3 months at the very least to completely refine the phoenix sacred heart. It could not be helped. After all, it was a divine artifact left behind by the phoenix. How could it be refined so easily? Unknowingly, 14 days passed. On this evening, Ji Tianqing finally arrived at Heavenly Swaying City. This was an ancient city with 1,000 years of history. Its dark brown walls were mottled, and it was surrounded by tall mountains. Although the city was not very large, and the population was less than 1 million, it possessed a heavy heritage and atmosphere of martial arts. After all, this was the city closest to the 10,000 mountains. The cultivators who wanted to venture into the 10,000 mountains to search for treasures, gather herbs, and hunt demonic beasts would all rest in Heavenly Swaying City. In the old and simple city, there were shops related to martial artists everywhere, selling all kinds of resources and materials that martial artists needed. Most of the people on the streets carried blades and swords. They gave off the sharp presence unique to cultivators. Ji Tianqing was rather special. He strolled through the city empty-handed, strolling around leisurely. He did not carry any weapons, and he was handsome and elegant. He wore white robes, which made him seem like a noble young master. However, he gave off an invisible presence that made people feel reverence and respect. Chapter 1194. After Ji Tianqing entered Sky Swang City, he found an inn to stay for the time being. Since he had nothing to do, he waited for Yun Yao while gathering information in the city. He sat in a tea house and drank tea. He used a little bit of his soul power to hear all the sounds within a few thousand meters. Soon, he heard that many powerful adventurers and experts were discussing a strange matter. In their conversation, they mentioned the 10,000 mountains range and myths, which immediately piqued his interest. Therefore, he listened attentively, trying to find out some useful information. In a private room on the 3rd floor of the tea house, a few primal core experts were discussing this matter in low voices. Brothers, do you all know about the strange thing that happened yesterday morning? Yes, now half of the people in Sky Swang City know about it. I heard about it too. It is said that yesterday morning, in the 10,000 mountains range, there was a dazzling rainbow light that lit up half the sky. I saw it with my own eyes yesterday morning. At that time, when the sun rose, there was a dazzling rainbow light in the depths of the 10,000 mountains range that lit up half the sky. It was even more dazzling than the sun. Brothers, that mysterious rainbow light came from the depths of the 10,000 mountains range. Many people in the city said that it was the morning glow, but I definitely don't believe it. It was clearly a vision of heaven and earth. When he heard this, Ji Tianqing frowned, and a light flashed in his eyes. Many martial artists in the city are discussing this matter. They all said that they saw the rainbow light in the sky. It seems that this matter is true. The mysterious rainbow light in the depths of the 10,000 mountains range. Could it be related to the fallen god cliff? As he thought of this, he became more interested in this matter and listened even more attentively. The few Yuan Dan stage adventurers were still whispering amongst themselves. The old saying is right. Whenever there is a vision of heaven and earth, there must be a divine item that is born. If it is not a magical treasure, then it must be a rare mythical beast. I feel that the rainbow light is not simple. We need to investigate it. The 10,000 mountains range covers an area of 200,000 miles. The rainbow light in the depths of the mountain range is at least tens of thousands of miles away from Sky Swang City. If it wasn't for the birth of a divine object, what kind of light could illuminate the sky for tens of thousands of miles? I'm willing to bet that there's definitely an earth-shattering divine item in the depths of the mountain range. Everyone knows that there is an ancient legend in the 10,000 mountains. It is said that a god fell from the sky and fell into the mountains. In my opinion, it might be a divine artifact left behind by that god. After thousands of years, it has reappeared in the world. Alright, let's stop talking nonsense. Instead of guessing here, why don't we take a trip to the mountains and see for ourselves? Hey, let's just talk about it. Are you really going to look for it in the mountains? Second brother, don't be rash. We all know how dangerous the 10,000 feet mountain range is. If we meet a demonic beast king, we will all die. Now that a strange phenomenon had appeared, countless experts had rushed to the depths of the mountain range to investigate the truth. If we join in the fun now, what's the difference between that and seeking death? Yes. What third brother said makes a lot of sense. I've already asked around. Last night, over 100 experts and more than a dozen powerhouses quietly entered the mountain. If we go in now to investigate, I'm afraid we will be killed by others before we can find out the truth. You can't say that. In our line of work, we live on the edge of a knife. Wealth comes from danger. What if we are lucky enough to find a divine artifact or a divine beast? Wouldn't we be able to achieve great success? That's right. We are adventurers. If we are afraid of death and don't take risks, we will live without dreams. What's the difference between us and fat pigs? The few adventurers were very conflicted. After arguing for a long time, they still couldn't come to a conclusion. They were curious about the mysterious multicolored light within the 10,000 mountains range and wanted to investigate it. They harbored the dream of becoming rich overnight and soaring into the heavens. But they knew how dangerous the 10,000 feet mountain range was and didn't dare to join in the fun at this juncture. Ji Tianqing listened for a while and retracted his soul strength. He picked up the teacup and took a sip of the spiritual tea. His lips curled into a faint smile. A mysterious light has appeared in the 10,000 feet mountain range, illuminating the sky for tens of thousands of miles. It is earth-shattering and extraordinary. Many experts and powerhouses have rushed to the depths of the mountain range to investigate the truth. Coincidentally, I encountered this incident. Interesting. He muttered to himself. Even if this didn't happen, I would still go to the depths of the 10,000 feet mountain range to look for the legendary fallen god cliff. Now that there is a heaven and earth vision, all the more I have to investigate it. However, he had already made up his mind to investigate the situation. He wasn't in a hurry. He had to wait for Yun Yao to arrive at Sky Swang City so that they could meet up and enter the mountain range together. Even if the heaven and earth vision had alerted countless experts and powerhouses, everyone had already entered the 10,000 feet mountain range. He wasn't worried. To be able to cause such a majestic heaven and earth vision, it was definitely not an ordinary treasure. It could very well be a divine artifact or Dharma treasure. If any random person could obtain such a treasure, it wouldn't be called a divine artifact. Only a true powerhouse would be able to obtain such a great opportunity. Ji Tianqing returned to the inn and meditated in his room for the entire night. The next morning, when the sky had just turned bright, he ended his cultivation. A tinge of orange appeared in the sky. The sun was about to rise. Just then, in the sky above the 10,000 feet mountain range, a dazzling five-colored light suddenly appeared. The dazzling light that was reflected in the sky covered half of the sky, causing the sun and the blue sky to lose their color. The dazzling seven-colored light rippled in the sky like water waves, revealing a vast and mysterious aura. This scene lasted for a full 10 breaths before it gradually faded and disappeared. Ji Tianqing witnessed this scene with his own eyes. Instantly, he raised his eyebrows, and his eyes were filled with shock. There is indeed a seven-colored light that lit up the 10,000 feet mountain range. It covered half of the sky, at least tens of thousands of miles. The rumors in the city are indeed true. Such a dazzling and majestic heaven and earth vision is even more majestic than what everyone said. That seven-colored light must be the release of extremely dense heaven and earth spiritual qi to form such a scene. Only divine artifacts and magical treasures, or heavenly materials and earthly treasures of the same grade, can contain such terrifying spiritual energy. After seeing the seven-colored light with his own eyes, he was even more certain that a rare treasure had appeared in the 10,000 feet mountain range. Although he wasn't sure if the unknown divine artifact was a divine artifact, a divine medicine, or a divine beast, he was filled with anticipation. He just wanted to enter the 10,000 feet mountain range as soon as possible and investigate the truth. For the entire day, Sky Swang City was bustling with noise and excitement. Most of the citizens saw the seven-colored light and were shocked and amazed. Chapter 1195. Ji Tianqing waited patiently for 2 days. Only on the evening of the third day did Yun Yao arrive in Heavenly Swaying City. Both of them wore the Lingxi bracelet, so they could sense each other's presence as soon as they were within 1,000 kilometers of each other. As a result, there was no need for them to communicate. They found each other very quickly. The two of them met in the square in the city. They smiled as they stared at each other gently. Today, Yun Yao was still wearing a long white dress. Her waist-length black hair hung down to her waist, and a jade hairpin was inserted into her hair bun. Even though she had traveled all the way here, she seemed exhausted and travel-worn. However, this was still unable to hide her great beauty and her sacred, noble bearing. Ji Tianqing studied her before extending his arms and pulling her into his embrace. He said gently, "Yao Yao, it's been a tiring journey. I've made you suffer." Yun Yao hugged him tightly as well. She shook her head gently, "It's not tiring at all. Instead, it's able to train my powers and help me consolidate my foundation as a martial artist." Ji Tianqing smiled, "You've changed a lot in over a month. You've become much prettier." Yun Yao's heart warmed. She rolled her eyes at him in a coquettish manner and said softly, "What a glib tongue." Ji Tianqing smiled and pulled her into the inn. As he walked, he said to her, "Yao Yao, you've traveled for half a month. You've used up a lot of your powers. Tonight, you should rest in the city. We'll leave after you've recharged your strength." Yun Yao nodded in agreement. Afterwards, she asked, "Tianqing, why are we meeting up here? Previously, you said in the communication jade slip that you wanted to do something very important and needed my cooperation. What is it?" Ji Tianqing brought her back to the room in the inn before explaining secretly, "Yao Yao, it's a long story. It's related to your life and your future as a martial artist. Let me explain slowly." Afterwards, he told Yun Yao about the matter of finding the Neptunian divine pearl in detail. After Yun Yao learned the whole story, she immediately felt incredulous and revealed a look of surprise. "The Neptunian divine pearl in my body is actually condensed from the Yaoguang goddess soul. This was only her 7th fragment. Were there 6 other Neptunian divine pearls in the world? It's no wonder that I feel like I've changed so much after breaking through to the soul refinement realm. The effects of the Neptunian divine pearl are constantly being revealed." Ji Tianqing nodded and said with a solemn expression, "Yao Yao, this is our biggest secret. Other than our parents, we can't let anyone else know. What I can be sure of is that you are the reincarnation of the ancient goddess Nacrolite. However, you have only inherited the 7th soul of the goddess, and your soul and memories have yet to awaken. Moreover, you only have 5 years left. You can only extend your lifespan by fusing with even more Neptunian divine pearls as soon as possible." At this point, he paused for a moment to give Yun Yao some time to calm down. However, Yun Yao remained relatively calm. She only frowned and revealed a sliver of worry. Ji Tianqing comforted her gently, however, "Yao Yao, don't worry. I'll do my best to find the Neptunian divine pearl for you. I won't let anything happen to you." "Yeah. Tianqing, I believe in you." Yun Yao also nodded sternly as she looked at him gently. She trusted Ji Tianqing deeply, even more than she trusted herself. After a moment of silence, she asked, "Tianqing, did you call me here to take me to find the Neptunian divine pearl?" "That's right." Ji Tianqing nodded. Outside Sky Swaying City is the 10,000 mountains. In the depths of the mountains is a mysterious godfall cliff, He told Yun Yao about the legends of the Godfall Cliff and the resplendent glow he had personally witnessed. Yun Yao also found it very unbelievable after hearing that. Her eyes shone brightly as she became eager. Tianqing, even if it's not a god artifact, it's still a treasure of the same grade to be able to cause a phenomenon like the resplendent glow. Do you think it's possible that the Neptunian divine pearl caused this phenomenon? Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded. I've thought of that before, and I think it's very possible. If that's really the case, then that's fantastic. We have to obtain it no matter what. Yun Yao held his hands and said, Tianqing, let's enter the 10,000 mountains as soon as possible, just in case someone else gets there first. Ji Tianqing shook his head. There's no need to hurry. The people who have entered the 10,000 mountains first are all origin core cultivators. Only a few of them are at the heaven's origin realm. With their strength, it's impossible for them to obtain the Neptunian divine pearl. They might not even be able to find it. The matter at hand is for you to meditate and recover your strength. We'll set off tomorrow morning. All right, we'll do as you say. Yun Yao nodded in agreement without hesitation. After that, she consumed a few soul-grade pills and sat cross-legged on the bed to recover her strength. Ji Tianqing sat down beside her. As he closed his eyes and rested, he silently nurtured the strength of his spirit. The night passed without a word. The next morning, the two of them left Sky-Swaying City together and flew into the 10,000 mountains. As soon as they entered the mountains, they saw that the mountains were shrouded in clouds and mist. There were straight and steep mountains everywhere. The mountains were like huge stone pillars or swords. They stood on the ground and pointed straight at the sky. Fortunately, the mountains were not bare. They were covered in trees, flowers, and vines. Many demonic beasts were active in the mountains. There were even birds flying in flocks. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao were both at the soul-tempering realm. They radiated with invisible soul power. The weaker demonic beasts did not dare to get close to them, no matter how many of them there were. They were intimidated by their auras. The two of them flew deep into the mountains. Along the way, they saw many martial artists. Those martial artists were from Sky-Swaying City. They risked their lives to enter the 10,000 mountains in order to find out the secret of the 10,000 miles sunset glow. Many of them were unlucky. They were attacked by a large group of demonic beasts. They were torn into pieces and died in the mountains. Some of them who were lucky enough to escape were severely injured. They retreated from the 10,000 mountains and fled back to Sky-Swaying City. Only the Sky Origin Realm elites were qualified to enter the mountains to search for the traces of the divine item. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao flew for about 50,000 miles before they gradually slowed down. They were already in the depths of the 10,000 mountains. The surrounding mountains were even more steep. There were abysses and canyons everywhere. It was very dangerous. Origin core demonic beasts appeared frequently. There were even Sky Origin Realm demon kings. Even Sky Origin Realm elites had to be careful. They had to be careful. Otherwise, they might lose their lives. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao released invisible soul power to cover the surrounding mountains and valleys. They searched carefully. Unknowingly, an entire day had passed. When night fell, the world was dark. The two of them found nothing. Other than the nests of many powerful demonic beasts, they did not detect the aura of the divine item. Chapter 1196. The pillar of light that suddenly lit up was formed by the condensation of dazzling multicolored light. Half of the night sky was illuminated. Even the stars and the moon in the sky lost their colors. Although the pillar of light only appeared for a moment, it soon faded away. But Ji Tianqing could still sense that the night sky was filled with strong fluctuations of spiritual energy. He could roughly judge that the source of the colorful pillar of light was 30,000 miles ahead of them. Yao Yao, let's go and take a look. While talking, he took Yunyao and flew forward at the fastest speed possible. Yunyao also saw the colorful pillar of light with her own eyes and sensed its magnificent aura. She didn't need Ji Tianqing to tell her that the colorful pillar of light was most likely related to the divine item. Swoosh! Swoosh! The two of them turned into streamers and streaked across the night sky as fast as lightning, heading straight for the depths of the mountain range 30,000 miles away. While they were on their way, they noticed that the demon beasts in the mountain range were restless. Waves of excited and manic roars echoed in the mountains, breaking the tranquility of the night sky. There were even many powerful demonic beasts that were flying rapidly in the night sky, rushing towards that area. Time passed quickly. 8 hours passed quickly. At dawn, Ji Tianqing and Yunyao finally flew 30,000 miles away and stopped near a vast, ancient mountain range. This area was exactly where the colorful pillar of light had lit up. The sky was shrouded by boundless clouds and mist, like a layer of white barrier, obscuring the mountain range. On the ground, steep mountains that were thousands of meters high stood one after another. These mountains were so steep that they looked as if they had been chopped by knives and axes. Warriors who couldn't fly wouldn't be able to climb up the mountains at all. There was a forest growing on the mountain peak. All of them were rare and ancient trees. There were also many exotic flowers and herbs. Dense vines with wide or slender leaves were climbing up the cliffs. Vines that were hundreds of meters long were hanging down and attached to the cliffs. At the foot of each mountain was a dark, lightless valley that looked like an abyss. The surroundings were completely silent, and not a single noise could be heard. There were no roars of beasts or insects. Even the sound of wind couldn't be heard. It was eerily quiet. This place seemed to be isolated from the rest of the world. No one had set foot here for thousands of years. Everything was preserved in the most primitive style. Ji Tianqing and Yunyao stood in the air and looked around. They talked to each other using their divine souls. Yao Yao, this is the deepest and most dangerous area of the 10,000 mountains. Although it's quiet here, I can sense that great dangers are lurking everywhere. We must be careful. Yunyao nodded and said, Tianqing, although you have determined that the origin of the 10,000 miles sunglow is here, this is only a preliminary guess. This area is too vast. We have to split up to find the source of the multicolored light faster. Ji Tianqing frowned. He said rather worriedly, that might not be appropriate. This place is too dangerous. We don't even know what dangers there are. I don't feel safe splitting up. Yunyao looked at him firmly and comforted him, Tianqing, don't worry about me. I just want to gain some experience, so it makes sense for me to take risks. Moreover, I'm extremely sensitive to the presence of Neptunian divine pearls. If there really is a Neptunian divine pearl hidden here, I'll definitely be able to find it very quickly. Ji Tianqing only nodded after a moment of consideration. That works too. Be careful. If anything happens, contact me immediately. With that, the two of them split up. One of them flew to the south, while the other flew to the north. Both of them slowed down. As they flew through the air, they released the power of their souls to investigate the surroundings. They began a carpet search. Very soon, an hour passed. The two of them had searched over 1,000 kilometers. They were getting further and further away. Ji Tianqing did not come across any danger, but he did not gain anything either. He did not find any clues. However, at this moment, Yunyao ran into trouble. When she flew past a mountain peak that was as straight as a sword, two huge and ferocious birds suddenly flew out of a cave in the cliff. These two birds were pitch black in color and were 100 meters long. They had 2 heads and 4 wings. They looked a little like eagles, but their eyes were fiery red. Flames surged in their eyes. Flames also surged between their claws. These two demon king-level beasts were called spirit fire vultures. They were as strong as experts in the 8th tier of the heaven origin stage. Whoosh! Whoosh! The spirit fire vultures were extremely fast. When they flew out of the cave, they turned into 2 black shadows. They charged at Yun Yao from the left and right, attacking her. They stretched out their hook-like beaks and opened their blade-like claws. They clawed at Yun Yao with unparalleled power. Yun Yao had been vigilant. When the 2 spirit fire vultures suddenly attacked, she immediately realized the danger. She did not hesitate at all. Almost subconsciously, she retreated. A silver light flashed in her palm, and the cold moon sword appeared. Vast and mighty spiritual power was injected into the cold moon sword. Suddenly, the sword lit up with silver moonlight and released a cold breath. Essence of the moon. She shouted in a low voice. She waved the cold moon sword in her hand and slashed out a 100-meter-long crescent-shaped arc light. Swoosh! The bright crescent-shaped arc light cut through the cloud-filled sky and instantly hit the spirit fire vulture on the left. With a muffled bang, the spirit fire vulture was slashed and flew out. It crashed into the towering mountain peak, splashing rocks all over the sky. A long and narrow wound appeared on its chest, revealing the white bones. Dark red blood spurted out like a fountain and sprinkled in the sky. Yun Yao only used one move to severely injure the spirit fire vulture. It screamed in anger and pain. At the same time, the spirit fire vulture on the right swooped in front of Yun Yao. Its huge claws covered her head and were about to tear her to pieces. At the critical moment, she did not hesitate to use her divine soul Dharma Eye and blasted it at the spirit fire vulture. After she broke through to the first level of the soul refining realm, what she condensed was not a divine soul Dharma Eye, but a bright silver ball of light. It was like a star that had shrunk countless times. Its light was dazzling, and it emitted an extremely cold breath. Yun Yao called it the star Dharma Eye. Bang! With a muffled bang, the house-sized star Dharma Eye hit the spirit fire vulture and sent it flying. This spirit fire vulture's fate was even worse. A huge bloody hole was blasted in its chest by the star Dharma Eye. Its neck was also shattered. It only had its head left. Blood flowed from all over its body. Countless feathers burst out and fell from the sky. It also screamed and flew back. It crashed into the mountain peak, splashing dirt and stones everywhere. The dangerous mountain peak, which was thousands of meters high, also shook violently. A large part of it collapsed and was on the verge of collapse. Chapter 1197. Moonblade Sky Attack. Yun Yao waved her cold moon sword and slashed out 2 beams of moonlight that were hundreds of meters long. They fell from the sky and attacked the 2 spirit fire vultures. Bang bang! With muffled sounds, the 2 spirit fire vultures' wings were cut off by the moonlight blades. Huge wounds were added to their bodies. Blood spurted out, and their injuries became even more serious. Starry swords! Yun Yao shouted coldly. She controlled the huge starry magic eye and released hundreds of thousands of silver sword auras at the 2 spirit fire vultures. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Sharp, ear-piercing sounds rang out. The sky within a radius of thousands of meters was filled with silver sword auras, turning into a starry space. This scene was incomparably dazzling, and it made one's heart tremble. But the power of the thousands of starry swords was also terrifying, like the might of the heavens. With muffled sounds of bang bang bang, the 2 spirit fire vultures were torn to pieces by the sword auras. Their huge bodies turned into minced meat and fell from the sky. The 2 spirit fire vultures that had lived for more than 300 years were easily killed by Yun Yao just like that. She controlled the starry magic eye and released a powerful ultimate move without consuming much dermic power. Her face was still calm as usual. The special starry magic eye does have special effects and power. She murmured to herself, waved her hand, and withdrew the cold moon sword and the starry magic eye. Then, she continued to fly forward, releasing her soul power to carefully explore the surroundings. Within a radius of 10 miles, no matter if it was a steep mountain or a valley, nothing could escape her detection. After flying for 2,000 miles, she suddenly saw several powerful demon beasts gathered on a cliff not far ahead. The demon beasts included beasts that looked like tigers and leopards, as well as huge, strange-looking birds. They were all demon kings of the heaven origin stage. They were all gathered near the cliff, guarding against each other, and at the same time looking down the cliff, as if they were observing something. Yunyao quickly slowed down, restrained her aura, and quietly approached the cliff. He saw that the cliff was more than 5,000 meters high, and the 3 adjacent mountains surrounded an empty area with a radius of 100 miles. This empty area was shrouded in white clouds and thick fog, making it impossible to see the abyss below. The light at the bottom of the cliff was dim. Even during the day, the sunlight high up in the sky couldn't reach it. Yunyao didn't know how deep the abyss at the bottom of the cliff was. However, she could feel that the cliff was unfathomably deep and mysterious. Strange, the vicinity of this cliff looks rather ordinary, and there's no unusual situation or aura. Why have these demon kings gathered here? Yunyao furrowed her brows and muttered with a heart full of doubt. She vaguely felt that there might be some unknown secret hidden under this cliff. After all, the monster kings who lived in the 10,000 feet mountain range were more sensitive. They would not gather here for no reason. She quietly flew near the mysterious cliff and hid in the sea of clouds, quietly observing. He saw that the cliff was very steep, as if it had been cut off by a sword. It was straight and steep. Although the bottom of the cliff was shrouded in white clouds and thick fog, there were occasional colorful lights that tore through the thick fog and reflected in the sky. Vast and mighty spiritual chi of heaven and earth constantly surged from the bottom of the cliff, turning into an invisible breeze that stirred up the white clouds and the thick fog. Yunyao stared at the cliff in a trance. Suddenly, a thought flashed through her mind, and her eyes revealed a trace of surprise. I understand now. This is most likely the legendary falling god cliff. The colorful lights that lit up half the sky earlier most likely came from here. No wonder these demon beasts gathered here. They must have sensed the aura of the divine item long ago. Thinking of this, she quickly took out her communication jade slip and sent a message to Ji Tianqing. Swoosh! The communication jade simplified into a beam of light and quickly drilled into the sky, disappearing immediately. Although the beam of light disappeared in a flash, its movement was very weak. However, the 7 demon beasts near the cliff were all powerful demon kings, and they had been tense all this time. They were immediately alarmed and turned their heads to look at the place where Yunyao was hiding. Woo! 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 Instantly, the 7 demon kings' hair stood on end. They stared at Yunyao fiercely and let out low and dangerous roars. The original tranquility was broken. The 7 demon kings instantly found a common enemy. They spread out and slowly approached Yunyao, about to attack her from all sides. Yunyao remained calm and collected. She slowly drew out the cold moon sword and stared at the demon kings warily. She made a sword gesture with her left hand and held the cold moon sword with her right hand. A star Dharma eye was floating behind her. An invisible, vast god soul power quietly spread out in all directions, intimidating the 7 monster kings. Sensing the aura of Yunyao's soul energy, the 7 demon kings were stunned. Their eyes were filled with fear. Even demon beasts that had reached the level of demon king had the corresponding intelligence and distinguishing ability. Of course, they knew that Yunyao was terrifyingly powerful. She was not someone they could defeat. However, none of the demon kings were afraid or retreated. They all stared at Yunyao and did not give in. After all, there were as many as 7 demon kings. Why would they be afraid of a mere human? Rustle, 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 the demon kings stepped on the mountain peak and flew over the vast sea of clouds. They continued to approach Yunyao. The distance between the two parties was getting closer and closer. The 7 demon kings had already surrounded Yunyao and were about to lose control of their violent killing intent. The atmosphere was getting tenser and tenser. The demon kings bared their fangs and claws. Their bodies were surging with violent auras. 100 seconds passed quickly. The 7 demon kings did not take the initiative to attack. Yunyao did not attack either. She was still on guard. However, the tense atmosphere had reached its limit. It was so tense that it could snap at any time. If there was any movement, the 7 demon kings, who were ready to attack, would launch a thunderous attack. At this moment, a dazzling golden ray of light suddenly flew over from the horizon. It arrived in the sky at lightning speed. Within the golden ray of light was a handsome young man in a white robe. It was Ji Tianqing. His sudden arrival was like a fuse that instantly ignited the 7 monster kings in the field. Roar! 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 7 different beastly roars sounded at the same time. They exploded above the cliff and reverberated in the air. The 7 monster kings unleashed all of their strength. They extended their sharp claws and fangs as they charged towards Yunyao with the intent to destroy the world. Dazzling true essence lights lit up. They were colorful and dazzling, but they were also deadly. The sky within a 20-mile radius was filled with streaks of light. It was a chaotic scene. Yao Yao, watch out! Ji Tianqing had just seen Yunyao's figure. Before he could figure out what was going on, he saw the 7 demon kings attacking Yunyao. Chapter 1198. Swish! 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 3 white divine soul Dharma swords released more than 300 sword auras, which enveloped the 7 monster kings like a rain of arrows. Bam! 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 The 7 monster kings were stabbed by the sword auras. Their flesh and blood splattered everywhere as they screamed in agony. The monster kings, who had been baring their teeth and fighting fiercely a moment ago, were so weak that they couldn't even withstand a single blow from Ji Tianqing's sword auras. All of them were severely injured. Yunyao keenly grasped this opportunity and decisively attacked. Galaxy Ribbon. She held the cold moon sword with both hands and channeled all her Dharma power to form a 1,000-meter-long silver light belt in the sky. The light belt was 100 meters wide. Starlight flashed in it as if it was formed by thousands of stars. It was extremely beautiful and magical. Slash! As Yunyao shouted, she held the sword in her right hand and slashed it down fiercely. Immediately, the river of stars in the sky slashed towards the demonic beasts with boundless heavenly might. Boom! 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 In the deafening sound, the 3 monster kings were killed on the spot. Their bodies completely collapsed and exploded into pieces of flesh and blood. The galaxy ribbon's power didn't diminish. It slashed the wide cliff again and created a 1,000-meter-long ravine on the ground. A small half of the mountain had collapsed, sending huge rocks and dust into the air, smashing into the cliff below along with a series of rumbling noises. Such earth-shattering might cause Ji Tianqing to raise his eyebrows as he looked at Yunyao in disbelief. Gosh! What secret technique did Yao Yao use? How can it be so powerful? The inheritance of the ancient goddess is indeed extraordinary. His heart was filled with shock as this thought flashed across his mind. At the same time, he controlled 3 divine soul Dharma swords to slash at the 3 monster kings. Swish! 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 The sword auras were bright and dazzling. The sharp sword chi split the sky and smashed countless huge rocks, hitting the 3 monster kings. The 3 demon kings were already heavily injured. After being slashed by the soul magic sword, they were split in two and fell down the cliff. Only the last demon king was left. It was a fiery red bird that was over 100 meters long. Its entire body was covered with bloody wounds so deep that its bones could be seen. Blood was gushing out from the wounds. One of its wings had also been cut off, leaving it with only 3 wings. Seeing the 6 monster kings being killed with its own eyes, it was scared out of its wits. It didn't dare to stay any longer. It immediately flapped its wings and flew into the distance, fleeing in panic. Ji Tianqing didn't have time to chase after it, but Yun Yao was already staring at it. When the crimson bird flew 1,000 meters away, she immediately manipulated her star Dharma eyes to unleash an ice-cold beam of white light. The crimson bird didn't have time to dodge, and was immediately hit by the white light beam, exploding with a muffled bang. Boom! The crimson bird's body was engulfed by the white light beam. Its huge body disintegrated on the spot, turning into a rain of blood that fell down the cliff. The turbulence between heaven and earth, the deafening sound, and the hurricane that was stirred up by magic power and spiritual energy gradually calmed down and dissipated. Ji Tianqing hurriedly flew to Yun Yao's side and asked with concern, "Yao Yao, are you hurt?" Yun Yao felt warmth in her heart when she saw his concern. She hurriedly shook her head and said, "I'm fine. Tianqing, you don't have to worry." Ji Tianqing looked her up and down. Seeing that she was indeed fine, he was finally relieved. His gaze fell on the star Dharma eyes. He couldn't help but take a few more glances. He smiled and said, "Yao Yao, your soul Dharma eyes are very special. It's a bit like a miniature star." Yun Yao nodded. She also smiled and said, "That's right. I can vaguely feel that there is a subtle connection between my Dharma eyes and the stars and moon in the sky. I have a feeling that when the power of my soul becomes stronger in the future, I might even be able to communicate with the power of the stars. So, I call it the star Dharma eyes. You can communicate with the power of the sun, moon, and stars." Ji Tianqing was suddenly full of surprise. He revealed a look of disbelief. "My soul Dharma eyes are swords. I thought that was already strange enough. I didn't expect your soul Dharma eyes to be even more amazing. This is incredible. You really deserve to be the inheritance of the ancient goddess." Yun Yao revealed a faint smile. She shook her head gently and said, "Tianqing, these are just my speculations. I can't be sure for now." She was only halfway through her words when she was interrupted by a sudden loud noise. Boom! A blood-red flame burst out from the cliff behind the two of them. It was like a mushroom cloud that rose into the sky. The white clouds and thick fog that covered the cliff were dispersed by the blood-red flames, disappearing without a trace. The violent and unparalleled impact shook the surrounding mountains crazily. Cracks appeared on the mountains, and more than half of them collapsed. The earth-shaking noise interrupted the conversation between Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao. Both of their faces changed. They turned around and looked at the bottomless mysterious cliff. They saw that the blood-red flame that soared into the sky covered the sky for hundreds of miles. It emitted an incomparably scorching power. The violent shockwave hit them head-on. Their clothes fluttered and their bodies shook a little. Fortunately, the two of them were strong enough to withstand the power of the shockwave. That was why they could stand firm. What's going on? Is there a volcanic eruption below the cliff? Yun Yao frowned doubtfully. She quietly released her soul Dharma eyes to explore the bottom of the cliff. Ji Tianqing shook his head and said, "It shouldn't be a volcano. The aura of this blood-red flame seems to be the magic power of a powerful demon beast, a powerful demon beast." Yun Yao's face was a little serious. She said in a low voice, "With such powerful magic power, it must be a demon beast in the soul-refining realm. Don't worry. Let's go down and take a look." Ji Tianqing held her hand and smiled confidently. Then, he took Yin Yao through the blood-red flame that covered the sky and flew down the cliff. To prevent any accidents, he controlled the 3 soul Dharma swords to float around and form a white sword net. At the same time, he also extended his soul Dharma eyes to explore the bottom of the cliff. The 2 of them quickly passed through the sky full of flames and thick clouds. Soon, they descended about 10,000 meters. However, they still hadn't reached the bottom of the abyss. They were still in the dark valley. The 2 of them slowed down their flying speed and continued to fly down the abyss. After about 30 breaths of time, the 2 of them descended another 100 miles and finally reached the bottom of the abyss. This place was 100 miles deep underground. It was dark all around. They couldn't see anything clearly. Only the rocky ground and the surrounding walls contained some rare ores and gems. They were emitting blue, red, and purple light. The air was extremely hot. It was filled with the smell of lava and sulfur. It was very suffocating. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao stood on a rock. They didn't act rashly. They were observing the situation around them. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.